you have a good day off so far. So I've seen you are playing a Paladin. Is this your hyperburning character?
This is my first character, so I played Maple like in middle school. I want to say 2007. Played other games, haven't touched the game for a long time. Got bored, so I decided to come back to the game, and this is where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. You liking it so far?
It's different. It's overwhelming. You know, before when you'd play Maple, it was slow and there wasn't like potential and stat bonus and link skills. There's so many systems now. I'm completely lost. I try to obviously look into it, but yeah, I'm a fresh account. I've been playing maybe just over a month.
Okay. And you're because there is stuff in the game that tries to explain all these things, right? But are you more of a hold down NPC chat, skip all the text, and then realize you're lost kind of game?
Find that to my why and skip through everything, right? But honestly, I look up what I can. Maple guides, obviously, it's helpful, but there's a lot out there. It's overwhelming. Like no matter how much I look into things, it's still just too much for me.
Okay. Well, okay. I think you've come to the right place. I try to do my best to make things palatable for people. And yeah, there's definitely that thing where, especially now with Hyperburn, that they try to push you through the game very quickly so that you have access to a lot of stuff so that you basically never run out of anything to do, right? Never have a moment to even get bored. And if you get bored, then you're feeling to yourself like, oh, this is a moment that I should be doing something probably because, time is money kind of thing.
I agree. Yeah, there's always something to do, right? Like if I don't feel like playing my Paladin, I'll like work on my Legion, right?
Yeah.
For example,
yeah. If all else fails on your main character, there's other characters. Yeah, it's never.
Yeah, it's
never
fun
nothing.
learning other classes too. Even though I don't find them as fun as Paladin. Paladin is super straightforward, kind of brain dead, which I like because I am learning the game. I'm noticing I'm not dying to one shot, so it's I get to kind of learn bosses, I guess, that way.
Yeah. Then you play another character, and you're like, oh, this thing actually kills people. Like.
Yeah,
the reality check.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I wanted kind of a support class too.
Okay.
I'm not party playing at all. I don't even have a guild yet. But obviously, I'm assuming that everybody kind of wants maybe a paladin or bishop, something like that, in their party. So I figured this class would be perfect for me.
It's always like, it's more uncommon to see a party without a single support in it than to have at least one support in there. And when it's all non-supports, it's always like, oh wait, what do we do for burst? Like, how do we even do that? We don't have like a support to go off of like when do we go for everything? Okay, so since you're pretty new, trying to not to overwhelm you with stuff. Is there? So I guess we could start with some like foundational stuff. Are there things that people mention, like certain terms that people use, and you just have no idea what they're talking about?
I'm sure if you explain things to me, I'll stop you and let you know. But nothing that comes like up to mind right now. Like flames are a little bit confusing to me. I get these rainbow flames. I forget which one those are called, and I use it on some of the gear that I think I should use it on. So I've been using that on the CRA gear that I got. I was
Eternal
able to clear
flames,
that. Yeah, so I think I got good pants out of there. I don't know. I'll let you look at it. But flames are a little bit confusing to me, obviously, because I don't know exactly what they can and can't roll, I guess.
Sure.
Like, I rolled attack, and it's like, is this good enough? Does it go higher? I don't know.
Yeah. That's definitely a thing that we can... But not like any like terms that people are mentioning or...
Not that I could think of.
Okay, yeah. Well,
I mean, spitball at me, right? And I'll let you know.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying like if there's just like 20 things you heard in the last week where you're like just so confused on what people are even on about, then we can clear that up first. But if there isn't anything that's really confusing, then that's good. I don't want to add to the confusion or something. I was thinking of maybe making like a word list of or like a abbreviation list at some point for like new players so that they can have like an idea of like, oh, that's what people mention.
Sure. Yeah.
Like one that people ask sometimes is like when people say like, can anyone do a WAP hold? And people are like, what the fuck is that?
Okay, yeah, I don't know what that is.
You maybe don't know what it is, yeah. But like a WAP is like a later game potion that you craft that lasts for 2 hours. It's short for Wealth Acquisition Potion, which obviously we abbreviate because that's way too long. Yeah. And if you like, people just mass craft those and do like 2-hour training sessions with them. So it essentially means like, can someone, does someone want to train for 2 hours in my map and then give it back to me? Basically, it's essentially what that means.
Okay.
Because sometimes people need get food, grocery shopping, whatever. But they, they kind of want to keep grinding, so they need someone to just. And if someone else is just trying to do 2 hours, 2 hours is already a pretty long session, so they'll be glad to get rid of the map again afterwards. So it's like a nice tit for tat kind of exchange going on there.
Sure.
And I would say that's probably one of the things that gives value to, adding people to the buddy list, being in a guild, stuff like that, is you don't want to have those, endgame guilds basically just like monopolize certain channels, right? They just have like 4 channels of certain maps that they just, they have like sign-up sheets for and everything on the extreme. But on the lesser extreme, you could be like, oh, I'm leaving this map, does anyone want it? On the off chance that you need it, or when you're leaving a map, you let someone else know, like, hey, I'm leaving this map, does anyone want it? It's little things like that. I guess I've never had
problems with that yet, because everywhere I train, there's always spots open.
Yeah, it's mainly on like 245 plus where it'll start happening more. Just because you're in the areas longer before you can move on, right? And then because of that, you just get bottlenecks that way. The other thing is though that the bottlenecks should be dissolving a little bit because totems were gone. I don't know if you heard people talking about totems.
I bought a few before they expired, and when I'm done work, I try to cap my clover, so then I'll use a totem. But I don't like using totems because I don't want to become accustomed to it, because it feels really good when you're on totem and it sucks ass when you're off a totem.
Yeah, it's
so
just
I kind of wanted to have that. Yeah, I wanted like I knew what totems did, and I kind of like wanted to restrain myself, right? Because I didn't want to become accustomed to it, right?
Yeah, that's generally a very good frame of reference to have, because a lot of times once people play this game for a long time, you can kind of tell by how they respond to things, is people will see things that they didn't get as things that they lost, and it's very important to keep those two things very separate. Because
like I've got my taste of it for sure, right? But
once they become the same thing,
unless I have to.
You kind of become like a plaything of the game, and it kind of holds like a control over you, and you kind of want to make sure that doesn't happen, because you want to like stay in control, stay on the helm of the boat, and you steer the thing, right? Not the game steering the thing, and you're just like one of the passengers. That's like the main thing with this game, because it will just swallow your whole life if you let it. So it's good to set boundaries early on how much do you want to do, what content is really just fun for you, and do you want to do that's maybe not that effective, and what content do you just absolutely not want to do, even if it is very necessary, like putting your foot down on some things to make sure that the whole overall system stays enjoyable to you. That's a good thing to get into as early as possible and stay true to the further you go. Yeah, we can kind of look through. So the general thing I do is usually in the beginning I kind of a little bit of the lay of the land. I don't know, what is your typical, like, what does a week of playing MapleStory look like to you? Like, how many hours do you play? Do you play more on weekends, stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm kind of blessed that I get to kind of play all day.
Work from home, or?
Yeah, I do. So obviously,
work. You can hear the quotation marks.
Right, like you have a little bit of I have a little bit of, I guess, some free time during hours. Things are slow, whatever it is, and then off hours I'll usually be playing. I don't know how many hours a day, honestly, but I get to log in every day. Sure.
Yeah, so dailies and standard dailies that at least take like anywhere up to an hour, that's never really a problem.
No, and I like doing my arcane dailies.
Okay. Well, we
found
one chat. We found someone who likes doing arcane dailies.
I'm used to dailies, right? Like I played a lot of Lost Ark. When I moved on from MapleStory, I played WoW a lot, and it's all dailies. I mean, I love MMOs. Dailies are nothing new to me. And the dailies are pretty quick to slap out, this game, right? You go and you slay a few bad guys, give you little arcane symbols. That's it, right?
Yeah, and you speed up the existing dailies as you further more areas as well, so that makes the whole clump of dailies not as bad. It makes it more doable.
It gives you something to do, right? I like logging in and having things to do, and that's just something to do.
Yeah, it definitely gives you a direction. And I don't know how much have you looked into like how much the game has to offer further than that? Like, is there anything that you've seen that you really want to be able to achieve at some point?
Are you asking me my goals, like my short-term, long-term goals? Is that what
I don't know if you have those at all. If you've like seen a video of somebody doing Black Mage, and you're like, I want to fucking do that. I don't know if you.
So
if you
not
have anything
necessarily
like
that far in, but I want to get my Absolab gear. That's super important to me, and I don't want to get carried because I wouldn't mind getting carried maybe on a second character, but I don't think for me I want to like be able to do it first, because that's the fun, right? Is being able to struggle and do it. Like when I was able to do 3-door, like that was a lot of fun. I didn't get like carried through it.
You want to
I mean,
duo it,
yeah.
or just like full solo it, or small party, or?
I'm open to whatever. I mean,
because there's a
I
paladin,
don't have
you'll
a
be
guild
very
or anyone.
yeah. You'd be a
Yeah,
good duo
I don't.
partner, right? To someone who's more
Yeah, no, for
squishy
sure.
and.
I just haven't found anyone yet. I don't have anyone to really like. I haven't joined a guild yet.
Mm-hmm.
So right now it's a lot of solo play, but I'm not opposed to that, right?
Yeah. Have you ever checked out like the boss menu to see if there's anyone in there? Like, I know a lot of people are just in there looking
People
for
just begging
carries.
for carries.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
all it
most
really
of
is.
it.
And
Yeah.
I can't be arsed to sit there and wait. So I kind of go in and do it. Like I'm doing hard lucks on reset. I haven't tried hell. I don't know really what I need for that.
Mm-hmm. And have you?
But yeah, I'd like to get Absolab. I want to do. I think it's called Lotus and Damien, right? That's what I need to get that stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And have you been?
That's a goal that I'd like to do at least by the end of the month.
Okay. And then the other thing is, you have to do the weeklies for that as well, right? Dark World Tree,
I've been doing
Scrapyard.
that, yeah.
You've been doing that, yeah. And the one thing with that is that if you can do that on multiple characters, you can scale up how quickly you can get those items quite a bit because they're transferable through storage.
Okay.
So if you do want to, make that whole process, maybe not for this character because it's going to be a long process regardless, but for like a next character, even if you get carried, it's going to be a good idea of doing those weeklies on multiple characters so you can significantly reduce the amount of weeks that you have to basically wait until you have enough of the items to turn the boss drops into the coins. But I mean, if you keep doing it with this character and then you add another character on, it's going to be twice as fast, right? So that'll help quite a bit.
Sure.
And then eventually,
I'm not opposed to having alts either. I know you guys call them mules. I always call them alts, but mules, alts, whatever. I'm not opposed to having other characters to play. But that's not, I guess, a goal right now. I don't know if it should be prioritized or not. Because right now
mules,
I'm just working on the Legion.
Way back, they used to be mules because your storage space was your inventory. You had 4 storage slots, and your inventory space was like 12 slots, I think. So you couldn't hold on to anything. So you had to make characters to actually hold on to important stuff. So they were actually just mules.
They call them like mules. Yeah, because they had like merching mules, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I played when there was no 4th job. Like 4th job, like I stopped right before 4th job even came out. So everyone.
Oh yeah, that was huge. Yeah, the whole leaf were coming out, and
the game was so simple back then. You just took a scroll and you threw it on your equipment. That was it. Like there wasn't much more to it, And
then you try to sell off whatever failed and recoup some of your losses.
Yeah, like Dark Scrolls, I think weren't even really a thing. I think.
Oh, that was
the end to when I started playing. Yeah.
Chance to boom your stuff. That was a game changer for sure. People getting greedy and then having to start all over. Oh.
Yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, I mean, it did punish. It would punish you if you were greedy. So that was I think that really got into the idea now as well of like, okay, well, you could take however much risk you want to, but if it goes wrong, like we told you so, and that really that drives home the FOMO of like, well, how risk averse are you? How much do you want to put pressure on certain things? Okay, so the Absolute gear, that's a clear goal that you have, and then other than that, it's just like sky's the limit, just one step at a time.
Yeah, I'm
kind
playing
of thing.
the game. I'm enjoying myself a lot. The game is, it's fun. And I don't know enough about the game to kind of have those long-term goals. I'm looking at like the next stepping stone. I'm taking one step at a time. Like first it was CRA. I got CRA. That's on farm. I have no problems with it. Now it's like I want to do Lotus and Damien, right? And then whatever's next from there. And I'm just always kind of taking it a step at a time.
Sure thing. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's my goals. But sky's the limit, Like I want to be able to do the hardest content eventually, right?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you're like someone who just really stays with game for a long time because you played WoW and Lost Ark, like.
Oh no, yeah, but I quit those games. So.
I heard from Lost Ark that it was pretty quick to get to a point where you kind of just did all the main stuff and then.
Well, I got pretty far in Lost Ark. Like, I think I was the first guild on our server. We killed Vault, and I don't know if you ever played Lost Ark.
No, it's blocked in my country.
Okay, yeah, but so I got pretty far in there. And then they had this system called, I don't want to get too into it, but it was called like quality. And then that just pissed me off, so then I quit the game. It was just too shitty.
That's not the gear score thing, is it, or?
It's like it's kind of hard to explain. You have like quality roll from 0 to 100, and the higher the roll on that. On your weapon, it's the more damage you get. I spent like 200,000 gold and got 1 quality from like 55 to 56, and I just said fuck this game and I instantly deleted it.
So it's only 55 to so there's a lot of room to grow there, and it's probably incrementally difficult as well. So
it took forever to get 200k, and it's like forget it.
I mean, I guess it's something similar, like people trying to tap like 22-star stuff and then spending a whole lot of money and just never even seeing 19 or something. It can happen, you know, statistically very abnormal, but it's possible. But it never feels good, even like knowing that it could happen. Like being that one person it happens to always sucks.
I guess I haven't gotten there yet. Yeah, like I haven't gotten that far yet, so I haven't been like too pissed off with kind of like the game mechanics so far. It's been great.
Yeah,
I looked at videos, people trying to like get 20 plus Star Force, and yeah, it looks like it's a grind, but you know, it's the game, right?
Yeah, I would say the hardest part. So that's why Reboot and non-Reboot are pretty different. Like, so in Reboot, it's easier to get the resources to upgrade something, but it's harder the further you go to get the thing that you want to upgrade. Whereas for non-Reboot, it tends to be the other way around. Like, it keeps being very difficult to keep getting the resources because there's just so much to spend on. But getting the pieces, it's just a matter of also having the resources, because you could just buy it off of other people in the auction house. So you can always keep going as long as you have enough resources. So they kind of struggle on the other part, depending on which version of the game that you're playing. So they have this thing that's literally called just the pitch boss waiting room, where if you get to a certain point, you just have to get pitch boss drops, which are very rare, and then you just have to get them high enough Star Force, and if they boom, you just, you know, you wait another 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months until another one drops, and then you can send it again, you know. But the good thing with Maple is, you know, or how they set it up is that, well, you can also just work on another character, right? You could just run on more characters and then have more chances that at least one of them breaks through that ceiling. But that's pretty far in the game, though. I would say that's, for most people, that's like probably like 2 years in or something, probably a little bit more than that, depending on how much you spend per day. So okay. There's one more thing I was gonna ask. You're not opposed to playing side characters. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess we could just get into like any questions you have. So there's usually like two main ways to do this. If you have like a list of questions, we can start with that, or I could just look through all the screenshots and then just go topic by topic, and you can just ask whatever you think is relevant for that topic at the time. Typically, I like to go to the equips last, because I feel like if everything else makes sense and that you have like a grasp on everything that we can talk about, then the equips themselves kind of follow and flow more naturally from that, rather than getting into the equips first, because then we'll have to fall back onto a bunch of metrics that we'll then have to explain in the moment anyway, right?
Okay.
So that's usually how I do it.
So yeah, you can. I like the second option. So you can obviously go through the screenshots, and I'm open to ask you questions, whatever it is, right? So
yep, for sure.
We'll do that.
All right, cool. So stat window first. I like that. Because we can tell a lot about it. So, before we start with all of that, how familiar are you with my resources specifically? Because I'll be mentioning those a lot.
I'm not going to lie, I saw a video on YouTube about you doing something like this, and that's as much as I know about you, man.
Okay, and have you watched the video itself as well, or did you just watch a few minutes and like, oh, this could be helpful for me, kind of thing?
That's it, yeah. It's like, I need something like this. I was looking for something like that anyways, when I was like the first few weeks in. Then I came across you, I think, a week ago. Okay,
nice. Phrasing on that one. Okay, so there's two main things that I think are very, very useful. Well, scratch that, 3 that are really important to know. So one is really just like a system, and how that system works is transfer hammering. Have you heard of this concept before?
You mean when I transferred my penciler gear to my CRA gear? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's transfer hammering. So you have like the big screen, you have items you can select on the left side, items on the right side, and on top you can see like what the outcome is going to be, what the result will be if you do that, right? So if you open up the window, and then you've got like the bottom right, the hammer thing, the inventory window, the bottom right is like the enhancing, and then the one right next to it, that's transfer hammer.
Yeah. So I've done that. I looked at a guide. There was this Word document that said get your penciler to epic 6%, then transfer them. So that's what I did. For example, so I know about that system from reading it.
Yeah, so knowing exactly how that system works is really valuable, because it'll let you know if you get any kind of drop, not just is this thing useful for me, but can this thing give me value later on in some kind of way, right? So because the main thing is if you can get a lot of an item, but so what I call like the source item, right? And then if you look, or we call that fodder sometimes, because we tend to go high on Star Force on that, and it's okay if we boom because we have a bunch of replacements. that goes into how a trace works. Have you ever seen a trace before?
Yeah, I had something boom on me. I think it was my top.
Mm-hmm. So
I got kind of scared. I'm like, oh shit,
yeah.
no way. And then I knew I could transfer, so it wasn't such a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. So because you get that trace and it immediately is at 12 and it keeps the potential, right? You can just keep going. So that's a good safety net to have.
Yeah, like that feels good. When it blows up and I can do that, it still feels good. And I try not to Star Force unless I have a backup in my inventory.
Exactly.
And then
That's
I'll
good.
stop from there and then wait. Yeah.
Because I think one of the main things that beginner players do more, and if you have more experience with more MMOs, maybe you have other viewpoints on that. But there's a few things that I think new players, especially people who come from WoW, tend to do this. They tend to like rush to try to fill all of their inventory slots with equips. That's not really necessary because some of the pieces contribute way more to damage than some other ones. And the ones that you don't get very early on, they contribute little to nothing in the grand scheme of things. So you don't really have to rush to get those. It'll come naturally, and then eventually they'll just fill up your inventory slot like later on. And you kind of want that because the further you go, the harder it is to make those upgrades on those existing items you have. So introducing a new item at that time is actually a really fun way and a really cool way of actually getting a decent amount of damage with relatively little effort at that point. So like brute forcing that early on is not really necessary. You kind of just follow the flow of the game, and these items will come when they come.
Yeah, that's the way I've taken it.
That's good.
Like I did my bosses, it dropped the shoulder, I equipped the shoulder, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the second thing is that this kind of linked to the transfer hammer is that a lot of people, because they're scared of things booming, they tend to over-invest quite a lot early on into potential because it's just like cubing, reroll. And then if you do that, not only are you like over-investing into upgrading potential versus Star Force, where Star Force pound for pound gives you more value to the per mezzo. But also, if you work on potential early on, and you know how Transfer Hammer works, right? If you then Transfer Hammer something later into it with lower risk of booming and all that stuff, then the potential gets rolled back down to Epic, or down to Rare if your source item is lower, right? And then you have to redo the potential. So also, money-wise, it's inefficient in that way. Not only, allocation of resources early, but then you have to double spend later as well. So that's another reason why you want to keep a balance. So when I try to strike that balance, there's two things that I have. One is the Dailies command, and one is the progression command. Got them open here, and you can definitely find them in the Twitch chat. So I have about, it's a little bit under 200. I've been trying to clean up because there's like some old commands that are not really relevant anymore. So if you check !commands, you can get a link to all of them. Or at least I tried to keep all of them in one spot, but it's all done manually, so there's definitely some error, human error and all that. But with these, you're going to be able to pick up any kind of topic that you're looking for, and it should give you at least an answer to like 90% of your questions, and then whatever is the 10% that's left is either really good questions that you can then answer in the chat, and then we can, have a conversation about, or someone else in the chat will already have experience and will be able to, get you on your way with that. Okay. So I think the main things that I've made that I think are very good is the Dailies command and the progression command. The Dailies command had a bunch of stuff on this first page in the past, like it had the experience for bosses and for content as well. That's gotten, pretty much insignificant now because of how little the lower frequency that you do certain content. Like either you already do it automatically, so it doesn't matter how much EXP it gives, or you only do it once or twice, which means it also doesn't really matter how much EXP it gives. So I've taken a lot of columns out. As you can see, it goes AEG and then it's done. The two that are left is Soul Shard tier list. That's something that's not as important yet for you now, but in the long term, once you have a weapon that you're going to use for a long time, you want to turn it into a soul weapon. That'll give it just more weapon and magic attack, but it'll also open you up to put a boss soul into that soul weapon slot. And that boss soul can be decent. Again, early on, it's not going to do as much for you, but the further you go in the game and the more expensive everything else gets, it's like a min-maxy thing that can actually, at that point, then be a significant difference. But it's a pretty slow process, so as long as you do like a little bit now, then in the end, when you want like a really good soul, you'll have a bunch of resources to look for. So usually I think if people want to play long term, I try to give them a lot of good habits, a lot of good starting things early on, and then as long as you do a little bit of that as you play, as soon as you reach like a time where, oh, this system becomes relevant to me now, you'll already have like a bag of resources that you can dig into and you can immediately get started, rather than kind of skipping it because it's not for you. And then when it becomes relevant, then you have to start building it up at that point. I'd usually try to avoid that second part.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I want to get into kind of good habits and knowing exactly what to do.
Okay, yeah. So
There's
I have
so much right now.
Yeah. So !new is a link that I have just for new players. Well, it even says how you can make an account. Nice. So one thing I did is follow the light bulb quests. You're probably doing that a little bit, maybe not as much as you know, not every single one. But light bulb tries to basically take like an excerpt of all of the available quests in the entire game and at least highlight the most important ones. Now, those aren't all mandatory, but all of the important ones are in there, you know. So if you use that as a general guideline, you'll never miss out on anything that's super important. And with the same thing in mind, I've got the Dailies command, right? So you can tell them here by level, that you can kind of see like what level things become relevant. And it'll have a little P here at the end if they have a pre-quest. And most likely that pre-quest is going to be a quest that's in your light bulb on the left-hand side of your screen, right?
Okay.
And you can also, you know, if you have a bunch of them left over and there's like a giant list, you can also click my level range, so it cleans it up a little bit. So there's not like the huge list of things that you want to.
I didn't even know that was there.
Look, yeah,
okay.
I can help clean it up a little bit.
There's a lot there even still for me, but I'm not sure if I've taken care of everything.
Yeah, it's totally possible that you haven't. So yeah, you could check these dailies out. You could like see which ones are here. So I've got them by level and then by like color coded to what I think is worth your time, what I think is not worth your time. Again, this is not like a, you know, not like a Bible. It's not like you're not allowed to do the things outside of the level ranges or
the foundation though, and it's helpful. So
yeah, it's just something.
How do I bring that up again?
So this is the second tab. So on the dailies command. So this says the list of the dailies. So that's, yeah, Soul Shard tier, and then the second thing is the bossing experience. So especially if you're trying to make sure that you're not getting like hard carried, but that you kind of know where you are, where you need to be standing, you know, what the boss even fucking does. Some of these bosses I think are very relevant to help you progress through the game because their mechanics will either be like precursors to next bosses, and you know, every next boss is just going to be a little bit more difficult. But if you have the foundation of the previous boss, you have something to build on and you'll have an easier time learning the next boss. And what you'll see is people who just get hard carried on everything, and the first boss they actually do is like normal will. There's a lot to catch up on for these people. So if you kind of work your way up there, and I think especially the ones that are slightly relevant in boss mechanics, you'll catch on much quicker, and you'll have a leg up.
Oh, please finish.
No, yeah, you'll just have a leg up on other people around your level who haven't done that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've done the hardest bosses I've done right now, at least in the menu, is the one with Vellum and Magnus. So I've done up to that on my own.
Yeah, and then you can kind of get an idea of like, okay, so that means that all the bosses below this are probably also doable, and whichever one is like mentioned above that, that's probably like the next incremental step of like, that's the next boss, that's the next challenge basically. Again, you don't have to do them in order, and the further you get, the more class difference you will get, especially if you have a little bit, you know, if you have more survivability, but you're also a little bit more of a party like support character. You might not be killing them as quickly, but because you can survive better, you might be able to kill them at a lower level, but the boss fight might be longer than someone else's, for example, right? If someone is more a glass cannon, they might get to killing the boss later because they can't survive the boss fight, but once they can survive, they can kill it very quickly because they can just blow it up. So that kind of depends. The class difference will come in the further you go, but everyone can get to that point, especially once they get up to like 250. Most people are going to get up to this point where you're like normal. You know, there's also some bosses where technically you can solo them, but you don't want to because they share like entry with higher level difficulty, and you always want to be doing like the highest difficulty that you have access to killing, so that you can get better rewards, right? Like for Lucid, for example, like, you know, you can kill easy Lucid, but that just has so much HP and takes so long. It's good to do that, I think, for a challenge and to see if you can get better character control, get better management of your time and of your resources within the boss fight, and do normal. But it also shares like the weekly clear with hard, so if you can get into a party and you can carry your weight there. But I think normal Lucid, for example, is a very good gradient or like a good litmus test of like, if you could do this, then you know your mechanics, you know that you have the perseverance of learning a boss, you know you have damage. If you have a whole party of people who can or almost can solo normal, you know, Lucid, I would always do a party with those people rather than someone who says like they have a huge BA or something. I don't know if you've heard about BAs before.
No, I don't know what that is.
BA is short for battle analysis. It's basically a way that you can track your performance in the game. So if you check your options on the bottom here, the menu, then you have something called battle analysis here. And basically, if you start an analysis and then you kill a whole bunch of monsters, it'll keep track of how long it is, how many monsters you've killed, mesos acquired, all of that. So you can use this on the one hand if you don't know which map is best for you and you don't want to keep track of everything mentally. You could do like, I would advise at least 15-minute tests because that's the cycle of one rune respawning. And that gives you a lot of extra EXP, otherwise your measurement is going to be off a little bit. So I would take like 15 minutes increments and then just check out some maps, and try to see which map just flows better for you and see how much experience and how much meso they actually give. And if there's no significant difference, then you could just do whatever you want. And if there is a significant difference, then you can decide like, okay, this one gives more money. If there's an event coming up where I need to spend, like a Star Force event, something like that, I'm going to go a little bit higher on the meso. If I just want to chill, I'm just going to go wherever I have the most fun, as long as I'm not sacrificing too much stat. You can basically decide for yourself. But people will do this for bosses as well, where there's an area, I guess I can show you. If you go to, have you ever heard of the dojo, Mulung Dojo?
Yeah, I know of it. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's basically like a giant dick measuring contest, right? It doesn't really matter. But if you get within the top 70% of ranking people, you'll get points, and that you can spend on this shop here. And there's some useful stuff there. There's a spirit pendant, for example. It's pretty cheap. You can only buy one a week, but it's 3 days. And if you're trying to min-max your EXP, like it gives up to an extra 30% EXP. So that's nice. That's like 3 levels extra of burning in the map, right? If you're running out of EXP coupons or you don't have enough Legion coins early on when you're still in that build-up, you can also use the Wulong coupons. You can buy up to 10 here, half-hour coupons for extra EXP. That's pretty nice. And the other thing that later on will be pretty useful is Medal of Honor if you want to work on your inner ability. We'll get to that in a bit because I saw you did some work on that already. And then the Soul Enchantress, sometimes people get this, but in general, Soul Weapon doesn't really come into play until later, and you'll start getting a decent amount from bosses anyway, so this is only like, high high levels of desperation. But basically what you can do here in the training center, here is you can go to the Fog Forest training grounds. I think you have to be in a party though, let me check that real quick. And basically what this lets you do is kind of like set up like a mock enemy. And then while you're doing a battle analysis, you can kind of check like how you do damage. So people will be using this to kind of simulate doing damage to a boss. But of course, as you can tell as a seasoned MMO player, all this does is just places like a steady boss like in the middle of the map. So it doesn't necessarily...
It's a training dummy.
It's a training dummy,
there's no mechanics. It's not doing anything. It's not that relevant because you're not always going to have 100% uptime on something.
Right, so it's used for specific situations. Some people will just use that number as like a fucking Bible and like this is, how big my dick is.
It's kind of like parses. I don't know if that's like something in this game, but there's like I know Final Fantasy. Yeah, like Final Fantasy and WoW have parsing. So depending how good you do on a boss fight, it ranks it out of 0 to 100.
Oh no, it doesn't have that at all. No. Yeah, no, it doesn't have that. No, there's nothing like that. But there is
done externally though on a website, like logs everything.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, there's not much like that for this game. We just have like public rankings and stuff, but that's like how big is your Legion, how much achievement points do you have, how high level is your character. It's more that. Okay. But yeah, so you could summon, boom, I could summon an enemy here if I want to, and then I could start attacking it. And then basically what people have is like what's called a 40-second BA is like a popular metric. I don't think it's relevant at all though, unless you are trying to set up for solo Hard Lucid. Hard Lucid has a special third phase over the normal form and the easy form, and during that phase he basically just is stationary in the middle of the map for 40 seconds, and you have to do a certain amount of damage to her in that 40 seconds, otherwise the whole run fails. So for that it's relevant, because it is actually stationary and because it is actually, those 40 seconds. So if you hear people talk about like my BA is, that's what they're referencing. And that's also what you have to start taking with a, with a pound of sugar or a pound of salt, like immediately, because they'll probably be holding on to it because other people are using it. But yeah, you understand the limitations of that metric. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say a more important metric is like, can you solo a certain boss, and what you can do in game. I don't know if have you ever like shared items with people or shared
when I did hard I did hard Von Leon, and there was a guy who wanted to carry, and I didn't really know how the loot works, so I like took my pets away. I didn't know if I would take his loot or something.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that's about it. That's the only party play experience I've had.
Okay. No, when it said share, I meant more like in messages. So what you
Oh.
could do is, if you open up the message screen here, there's like a link here.
Okay.
So you could use this, if you could do like, oh, like I'm going to be doing Lucid, you know, you could link an achievement, whichever one you want, and then it'll, I don't know, this one? How do I link it? Didn't I select it? Hang on, I've never linked an achievement before. This is spooky. Wait, does it have a button? Can I link achievement? Wait, how do you link an achievement, chat? Oh, now it does. Oh, I haven't gotten this one. Well, that would explain why I can't link it. Okay. So you could link it like that, and it'll show it, and then you have to add some text, blah, 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 blah. And then if other people see that message, they can click on it, and they can see the achievement, so they know that you've gotten that, right? And you can do the same thing with an equip. If someone is like, oh, how strong is your weapon or something, whatever, you can then link the weapon, boom, and then they can just see it. This is particularly useful at the beginning if you're like asking in a buddy list or a guild, right? Once you get in there, if you're like, oh, should I upgrade this item? You don't have to like copy all the item stats. You can just link the item, right?
Okay.
Loot is actually a good thing to get into in a little bit. Loot is, so there's a thing called shared loot and instance loot. Hopefully those terms are somewhat intuitive. So shared, everyone can take it. Instance, only you see it and can take it. So if you have pets out, pets will only loot instance loot. So you can always leave your pets out, essentially. Okay. However, there are some problems in this game where it doesn't work 100% because we have like 6 different regions that own this game, and we have content from like all of them. So there's some interaction difficulties. Specifically on some content where pets will actually loot everything. Or you can manually loot things, even though the boss loot is like set to be party leader only loot, which you can set if you want to. So if someone wants to carry, I would advise to do that. So if you open up the party window and you create a party, you see on the top right, you see settings. And here you can set it to party leader only if you want to. And then confirm, and it'll show here pickup rights party leader. So if you're the party leader, you'll have priority of the loot. So it should be that all of the instance stuff can only be looted by everyone respectively, by their own thing, and then the shared loot can only be looted by the party leader at this point. However, there's a few bosses where it doesn't work properly, so you be careful. Excuse me. As far as I know, it's Gollux, and I think at this point it's Lucid as well, where it doesn't work properly. So yeah. But again, not many people party Gollux. I think they should, though. I think people who can solo or can, feel very confident in hard Gollux should be partying for hell Gollux, because these coins are instant, so everyone gets their own coins. You get more coins than from hard. And then the equips are shared, and there's actually a pretty good chance for reinforced gear, and there's a small chance for superior gear. But of course, if you're going with a bunch of randos, you're probably going to get a bunch of people who just want to yoink the superior gear and run off, right? Because the stuff is so rare and so expensive. Yeah. So it'll be better to do that within guild or, within buddies that you make along the way.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to play with people off the street. I'd want to play with guildies. Just from playing other MMOs, like I don't know how the community is here, but I feel like if you're just playing with randoms, like you're never gonna see them. You can't even find people in this game anymore.
Yeah,
like,
you
I
can't
remember you used to be able to find. Yeah, you can't even do that. So
people would get stalked, so they took it out.
Yeah, it's sketch. Yeah, it's just really sketch. So I wouldn't want that. Like I'd want to play with people like that I'm in a guild with or I trust.
Yeah, you can do with guildies though. If you have like members in a guild, you can like right click and they have location, and then it'll say the channel. You can go there and you can find them, but only people in their guild. Yeah.
Yeah. It's better for community building too, right? Instead of just playing with random, but they both have their ups and downs. Like
yeah,
play with random,
there's pros and cons.
People, they get you into their guild, right? Whatever it is. So.
Yeah, no, but I wouldn't say like, I would definitely not say like just write everyone off because they're a fucking. It's not like in League where pretend like you're playing with bots until you're in Diamond or something. But like I would say, like if you're doing dailies or you end up in a map, I would always like ask someone like, hey, are you doing dailies? Do you want to do dailies, or are you going to be leaving the map soon or something? Like if maps are pretty full, because this is also how you get to meet people. Because most of the time people be totally cool with doing dailies together with you because it just speeds up the process. And if you see someone 2 or 3 times like this, it's very easy to add them to your buddy list and start chatting and just, introduce yourself and have a buddy. Because you got to start somewhere. And like I said before, way in the beginning, right? Like if you have someone who's always in the same area training as you, and you can start like giving each other maps and exchanging. Excuse me. Or you see someone and you're like, oh, I'm done in 10 minutes. You'd be like, oh, cool. I'm just going to finish something up then, and I'll take the map in 10 minutes, right? It's very valuable that way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, MMOs, right? You can't just play alone the entire time. You gotta play with people.
Yeah, or a lot of, you'd be surprised how many people actually do. I tried to bring a little bit of balance to doing things with other people, not like either getting carried or soloing everything. Not that I don't think those things are necessarily completely wrong, but there's very much a thought right now in Maple where people think it's either one or the other. Like either you have to solo everything or you have people do things for you. And there's just so much in between there. So I'm glad you're on board.
Well, I chose the class I did because I wanted to play with people.
Yeah, it gives you the flexibility. You could definitely solo some stuff, but it'll be longer. And then
and I've had no problems doing it either, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Right, how do we get to this point? We started with the stat window, and now we're here. Oh yeah, I was just explaining like the resources. So this is by level, but then how do you really know that your level is the metric that you can really trust? Because there's not really any metric in this game that you can trust. There's no gear score. There's no there was damage range, right, back in the day, but that's completely irrelevant now. You can you can like buff up and 5x your damage range, and you can have another class with 3x your damage range, but you could be doing triple their damage. It doesn't compare. It's just not useful. I see. Okay. So I thought I set out like
that's how I would judge it for myself. Mm-hmm. Coming from, I guess the vanilla experience, right?
Long time ago.
That was your damage range. That was it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that was very important then. There were very few factors that weren't included in your damage range. Right now, if you open up your stat window and you look at that, your damage range includes damage. It does not include boss damage. It includes final damage, but that scales. If you had 100% final damage versus 110% final damage, it's not 10% more damage because it's final, so it's more like 5%. But it doesn't include something like buff duration. It doesn't include IED. It doesn't include item drop rate. It doesn't include critical rate. It doesn't include mass obtain. It doesn't include critical damage. Basically, none of the other ones are included in that. And those are actually super, super, super important. And there's some other sources that aren't even in your stat window that give you final damage. But other sources of final damage. So it's not compounding with this, but just multiplying with it. And they're all not visible here. So it's just not a good metric. I don't know why recently they made it take up even twice the space, and now there's like four blocks worth of damage range number. That just doesn't say anything. I mean, if it goes up, you do more damage, but if anything else goes down, it could be that your damage actually goes down, but you'd have to know that.
Okay.
So, how can you know that? That's where the progression grid comes in. So, this is like, how do you balance where you spend your time and your money in this game, basically. It just all could be redirected to this, to my interpretation of like where are the stages, where are the obstacles, where are the pieces of content that are big milestones, and which systems come into play at which moment, basically.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look into that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You said it was, the command was
progression.
Exclamation mark. Okay, and then dailies is for the other one.
Yes, yeah, those are definitely the two big ones that you'll look at the beginning a lot, and after a while, it'll be intuitive. So one of the metrics that most people will use is stat, like what is your main stat amount. So they'll look at your stat window and they'll be like, oh, you're a 13k stat, right? Almost 14k.
I think so. Yeah.
And then draw a whole lot of conclusions from that. The thing is with stat is it is a decent predictor. It's definitely one of the better ones. However, the lower your stat is, the worse of a predictor it is. Because the variance in the other ones will have a much bigger effect on your total amount of damage output. If someone says, like, I'm 64k stat, you can assume that they're pretty fucking strong. And that they know how the game works, so that the rest of their stuff is most likely balanced around, those stats and makes sense, right? And that their resources are spent properly. So if someone says they're 64k stat, you can draw a whole bunch of conclusions. But if someone says I'm 10k stat, or like I'm 13 or 14k stat, there are people who, if you have a built account, they can solo like Lotus and Damien at like 8k stat. People have done that. But there are probably people who are just maybe not as mechanically inclined, people who've overinvested in potential, like I mentioned before, and have very low star force as a result. Those people might be like at 20k stat and actually struggle with that boss, especially if they also have like a low IED, for example. That's a huge factor of damage later on. So, yeah, again, it's kind of like damage range where you have to, it's part of the package, but you have to like know the other things as well. But the more you know about the game, the more you can put those things into context, right?
Right.
And the biggest thing you'll see is that you'll most likely be behind on all of these numbers because you're hyper burning. So you're just blowing through the game. So those other stats.
I am right now too. So I'm just like it's.
That's perfectly normal because those other stats just have a lot of trouble keeping up.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Definitely.
Because you'll blow to 250 very quickly, leave all these numbers in the dust, probably be like on the early stage of the mid game with all the stats, and then once the leveling slows down tremendously, right, from 3 levels at a time to 250 plus suddenly, that's when all the other stats have time to catch up. Because some of those are dailies, right? Some of those are metric by how many days have you logged in. Well, if you level at more than 3x the speed, you have only logged into less than 1/3 of the day. So you can't have those numbers yet. It's perfectly normal. But if you play another character, you start from scratch, you'll be able to speed through the game a little bit more, but that's because you'll have these ways of funding your character, and because you do that, because of that, the level will be able to go quickly as well. Right? If you don't have any of these resources, then the level is just going to be slowed down, especially once, because of Arcane River, and Arcane Power is a huge factor, and boost nodes, right? These two are just insanely important. Yeah. Both of these are final damage mechanics. And like we mentioned before, it's not mentioned in your stat window at all, so yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so to get to the actual stat window 30 minutes later, you have, so I'm going to do a few observations. You can tell me what's right or wrong. I see that you've learned all of your professions. That's good. You've started those. You've started building those out. You have a little bit of an idea of how they work.
I've only learned them. That's about it. The only time I leveled them up is when the NPC shows up in the CRA area. And then he's like, hey, you want to level up an ability? And then I do it. That's all I've done.
Okay. So it's good to have one of your professions, either smithing, accessory crafting, or alchemy, leveled up to level 6. Alchemy is the advisable one because it'll let you extract equips. Have you ever extracted equips?
No.
Okay. Extracted equips is one of those things that's like a little bit of a small timey thing that doesn't seem very important, but the longer you do it, the more money you'll be pumping out from that, and it's actually a nice resource.
So I shouldn't be selling my equipment.
Yeah, if you extract versus selling it, as long as it's equips like over level 130, 140, you'll be making roughly 5x the amount from extracting versus selling.
That adds up, yeah. Because I'll vendor my Von Leon gear, for example, that drops.
Yeah, so some stuff has decent NPC value. If it's like multiple 100Ks, then you could definitely sell it. But if it's like 50K or less, then probably extracting is better there.
Sure.
The main thing is Philosopher's Stones. You can get those from extracting anywhere from 1 to 4, or you can get a shittier resource. But it's what I mentioned before with the building up the pile of resources, so that once you do need to start crafting stuff, you'll have a bunch of resources already, and then you can start working with the resources. The Philosopher's Stones NPC for 300k each, and you could technically get up to 4 if you extract a pencil or glove, for example. So you could get 1.2 mil out of it.
Oh, I see.
Versus NPCing it for 30k, and just because the volume, it evens out. I think on average you get about 0.7 or something Philosopher's Stones per item.
And that's from alchemy.
Yeah, so also from smithing and from accessory crafting, but what alchemy also lets you do, it lets you extract 10 items at a time, and the other one's only 5 items at a time, so it'll be faster.
So, getting alchemy at level 6 is really important.
It is fairly important, yeah. And if you have a lot of those little seeds and little oils and stuff, you can level it up pretty quickly. You could just level up a bunch of
I have a lot of that stuff. It's just sitting there. Yeah.
You can just make
I could probably level it up.
Shitty defense potions. So you have the extraction here on the left side of your inventory screen. And then you see these items, and you could do auto select like this, but it'll put a bunch of very valuable stuff in there that you probably don't want to extract. But you could just right-click items and then put them in there. So if I want to extract these things,
does
I
it
can
confirm before it does it? Like, does it say?
Yeah,
sure?
there's a confirm and cancel option here. Yeah, so you could just like right-click.
Suck.
Yeah, no, that would hardcore suck. Yeah. So you could double-click here if there's something in there that you don't want, and you can like right-click it to put it back in there. Yeah. That way you can put a bunch of items in there, extract. And yeah, the Philosopher's Stone's NPC for 300k each, so that's going to just be a nice little extra boost of income. The other things that are early income is Maple Tour, if you're doing that.
Yeah, I do that every day.
Yeah, so you can do at least 2. You can do more if you want to for Maple points. That can get expensive pretty quickly, though. And the other thing is Ursus, if you're doing that.
Yeah, I do that all the time at double time.
Yeah, double time, 3 runs. Yeah, that's a good solid income. Just those 2 is already like a bill a week, and then you can make extra money from Philosopher's Stones, from training, from bosses, drops, etc. How do we get here? Extracting. Yes. Okay, so that's one thing. Smithing is used for crafting shields. You probably won't need that being a paladin. The further you go in the game, shields have kind of been put offside for paladins. One-handed weapon yeah.
Yeah, I heard it was more relevant in the main game, I guess you could say, because you can like still scroll equips there.
Yeah, it's just the thing that the multiplier for two-handed weapon is just so good that eventually it just outscales one-handed weapons. Okay. And even with two-handed weapons, you can get to the same attack speed as one-handed. Usually one-handed are 1 rank faster, which I think is good early on in the game, because that means that your inner ability, and this is linked with your inner ability, that your top rank does not have to be attack speed +1, because you can still get to the max attack speed with a one-handed weapon without having that. So you can have a different line there. Usually Meso Obtain is very good early on, right? Make a lot of money. Or drop rate by getting more nodes and more boss drops, that kind of stuff. And that line otherwise has to come from Unique, which is very hard to roll early on in the second or third line, so you'll most likely be relegated to a epic line, and that's then usually 8, 9, or 10%. And whereas the legendary line is most likely 18, 19, or 20, and that's a pretty significant. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those are inner ability lines that you can get.
And that's really important to have Meso obtained.
It's pretty huge.
Okay.
Yeah, and in the general, like, what are the steps that you go through? You typically you don't need to upgrade all of your equips to like legendary and to 17 stars to be able to kill the monsters near your level. And this goes back to the progression grid. Usually this comes from like building on your arcane power, starting to level up your boost nodes, having okay flames, having okay star force, having okay potential, but a lot of it comes from having your weapon, your secondary, and your emblem, what we call the WSE. Those are the 3 most important pieces in your equipment for a very, very long time. So as long as those...
Because they can roll attack, right?
Exactly, and boss damage and IED as well. They've got a lot of really strong outs. So as long as those 3, together with your boost node and your arcane power, as long as those are working, then you can kill all the monsters around your level. And what you basically want right after that is to work on your accessories to get Meso Obtain and to get drop rate gear. So that when you're killing the monsters, you're squeezing as many resources out of them whenever you kill them. And that's going to be very important, especially for your first character, because your first character is going to be funding itself, but it's also going to be funding, most likely what will end up happening is you'll make what's called bossing mules. I don't know if you've heard that before.
I have, yeah.
Because those, that they get a lot of value from themselves, especially from being fifth job characters. That gives a lot of damage, but they'll need a little bit of time to get into the resources. And you'll have what I call like the cascade of resources. Is after a while what'll happen is your main character cannot really use the Master Craftsman cubes anymore. Like everything has already pretty good lines, or you're already going to legendary, so you don't really want to use those cubes. It'll just mess everything up. So you start throwing those onto a next character, and then onto the next character, and every single character is going to get elevated just by doing the boss runs. Because as much as people focus on the value of the crystals, which is very important, there's also a lot of not that many flames, only a few, but like a lot of cubes coming usually from doing a lot of bosses, and that'll help fund the entire account. Like become like a self-sustaining ecosystem basically, where they bring up the next guy, and then that guy helps bring up the next guy even faster. You just snowball in the resources that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. So do you have multiple gear sets? Is that important to have like Meso gear and then like bossing gear? Is that a thing?
Yeah, but you want to have as little overlap as possible, because early on you want to maximize the value from them, right? And if you make a lot of extra sets, then you're shooting yourself in the foot on how much value you can get from that. So like if you're making a bossing mule, you're not going for those sets, right? Because you're only attacking bosses. You want to kill them as fast as possible. So you're just rolling for stat. You're rolling for extra strength or whatever your main stat is on your equips. Keeping them equipped, keeping them epic, maybe getting the unique, but that's it. Getting as much value on those lower ranges as possible. If you can get like 9% or 12% from all of those low tier items, but there's like 20 items, that's 240% stat. If you go all the way up to legendary, yeah, eventually you can get higher, but that's so much more of an upfront investment. You want to start generating revenue with that character, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to the Paladin, you'll most likely just have the drop in Meso gear as just like your universal gear. But again, all of that damage is going to come from your weapon, secondary, and emblem, boost nodes specifically, and then Arcane Power once the Arcane Power bosses come into play. So that's going to be lucid and everything past that. Okay. Yeah, you sacrifice a little bit early on. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason you do that is because you want to start saving up money so that you can spend it when there are events. And then specifically, once you make the jump towards Absolab, you want to be able to throw all your money at that. You want to get good Star Force.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for, yeah.
Yeah, you want to get them up to 17. You want to get potential on them. And that's when the big damage starts coming in, because there's set bonuses as well for them. And they will just be carrying you. And you need that damage to be able to do... not need it, but that'll help you a lot on getting Helix done for Superior Gollux pieces. And once you get the full set of Superior Gollux pieces, hopefully by then you've also built up enough Dineros to be able to buy Sweetwater pieces that you need. And then those will replace all of the drop in Meso, what's called like the boss accessory set, right? Those will replace those in like one fell swoop. And then you'll have distinct sets. You'll have your damaging set and you'll have your drop set, essentially.
Sure. Yeah, I don't want to jump too ahead, but I put like extra screenshots of these resources that I have. I'm not sure how to spend them, so that wasn't part of what you wanted, but I felt it was necessary to include.
Yeah, resources is always good, like backups and resources.
Yeah, we'll see it as we go along, and you know, give me some tips there. But
and since we don't have trade, and you can't sell and you can't move them to other characters, some of those pieces you will have to see like, okay, how long am I going to keep this piece? You know, keeping a good epic potential or like maybe unique, depending on your income, is probably going to be good enough for a lot of stuff. But if you're getting drop in Meso gear on it and you're like, oh, it's getting replaced with damage gear, or even something that's temporary damage gear, be like, okay, well, once it gets even stronger damage gear that replaces this, you can always reroll the potential, because in the beginning the main investment is tiering it up to legendary, right? That's like a bill or something, and then rolling within very early on is only like a few hundred mil at most. Now, as you're min-maxing later, getting up to legendary is just, you don't even notice that as an expense because you're spending hundreds of billions, like getting the right lines afterwards, right? So that balance shifts the further you go. But
absolutely,
the reason I'm mentioning that is sometimes, and more now than before, having excess drop gear is going to be useful. So you have 9 pieces of accessory that can get drop or meso obtain. This is all explained in exclamation mark drop rate, by the way, if you want to like get the whole readout for that. But as you go further, and there's a bunch of pieces that were like temporary gear that are legendary, and you want to give them like a second life, then re-rolling their potential for extra drop rate so that you can go up in drop rate is very useful for more nodes, like we said, or when you're specifically bossing, right? Because bosses don't drop meso, they drop crystals and other cool goodies. So if you can kill them with very little damage, you want to do that, and you want to sacrifice some strength to get more drop rate. And that'll just help you get backups more. Very important items for backups, for example, if you're doing normal Arcarium every day, it seems like a pretty unsuspecting boss, but drops primal essences and can drop dominator pendants, which are huge progression pieces. The primal essences will be used as a resource once you level up your accessory crafting to make what's called the Meister ring. And those are essentially the same quality as the Kana treasure ring, which will be hopefully dropping from Princess Snow Boss. And these will be very important pieces that and what this game has a lot is some items you'll get lucky on, you get a lot of backups on, and some items you'll get unlucky on and you won't get very many backups. But
so would you say to work on accessory crafting after alchemy?
Would
you leave alchemy at 6 and then
Yeah, I think alchemy can eventually go to 12 for some useful stuff, but it's fine to keep at 6. Well, it'll like level up to 10 very easily. Basically, just leveling up to 10 is just a matter of just crafting something every now and then, and it's pretty simple. It's really going past level 10 for.
With that.
Yeah, no, it's pretty self-explanatory. Like you'll see which qualities of stuff you need. It's just for alchemy, the one resource you definitely want to hold on to. I guess there's kind of two, but one is juniper berry seed oils. That's a very, very valuable resource that you'll need later for those wops that we mentioned. So that'll be very limited resource. So you definitely don't want to squander those. And the other one is Hyssop flower oils. Those are like the very shiny pink. They look shinier and they look higher level, and they are. So you can kind of see by the look of them that like, oh, these are now it's getting serious. I don't know if I have the. I'll probably just transferred all of them away from this character, yeah, so I can show them. But
I'll take a look when I'm logged in.
Yeah, I have them on my other character. I'll show you in a sec, just so you can see. But like one is very, very deep purple, and the other one is pinkish in a really big bottle and like it's very sparkly. So as soon as you see them, you're like, oh, this is some other shit, you know. Let's see. Yeah, so this is the flower oil, right? It's like a little bit transparent, and then this one is like full pink, juniperberry seed oil. So these are pretty important. And then the other one is this one. So it's like all sparkly and like an extra flower. Like if you compare that to this, you know, you could see that this is shit because it's like puke color. What even is it?
Yeah, of
like
course.
The bottle is like grayish, and then this is like, oh, holy shit, look at this thing.
It's like it's foiled.
Yeah, exactly. So those are like the two most important resources, and of course the items that go into them, right? So the Hyssop flower goes into the Hyssop flower oil, juniper seed goes into juniper seed oil. Like other than that, everything is fair game. You could just use that to craft and to level whatever you need to do. Totally fine. And again, you could check ! traits, ! professions. These will have like extra information on the traits and how to level all that, and on the professions and how you can raise your professions quickly, what kind of resources you might need for that. Everything is basically a command for just to iron out some details. How do we get to this point? Oh yeah, smithing. Yeah, so the shield probably wasn't necessary because of the attack speed, right? That's how we got into all that.
Yes.
I could talk forever, so you need to get back to the main point at some point.
No, I'm listening, so I don't mind. Everything you're telling me is mostly new, and I'm absorbing it. I'm a sponge. Yeah.
Well, we're already an hour in, so I also want to make sure that we get through all the the relevant. We don't get too much into detail because we could probably talk for like 12 hours, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, so we talked about dojo, we talked about that. Oh yeah, so stat 1 now. Excuse me. So I was a little sick yesterday, still trying to recover from all that. Okay, so professions have some more details, but that's the most important thing. Just to get your little bit money rolling early on. I would definitely start looking for a guild. Guilds have a thing called guild skills, which are just insane power spikes. And as you can see, here in the progression grid, just the damage from the guild. So if you have a decent level guild, they can max out 3 skills. One will be critical damage. I don't know how much the critical damage you have now, but there's a skill that gives you, for half an hour, every hour, gives you 30% critical damage extra. And critical damage is basically final damage on critical hits, so it's fucking massive. It also has 30% damage and 30% damage to bosses. So if you add those together, your base damage is 100% that you can't see. So right now, if you would fight a boss, your total damage is roughly around like 335%. You add 60 to that. That's like more than a sixth of your damage, right? That's like 17 or 18% final damage, basically. You add in you can immediately tell if you're making boss mules, if you're trying to progress through the game. Getting access to guild skills is just a whole bunch of money you don't have to spend. And if you don't have to spend like the top 10% of every single source here, you're saving so much money and you're getting the same end result, right? So the more kind of corners you can cut that way, that's a huge thing, guild skills. So I've definitely start looking around. You can look at the guild menu. You can just see people who are recruiting. You can apply for my guild, !guild. We have that as well. We've got like an extra 3rd guild set up for like people who are coming in on hyperburning characters, basically just give them an idea and get them a look at the game. Here you have search option, and then you can I don't even know, can you just click search? No. all. Can you just get like a list of guilds, guys? Where does the... How do you do that again? Something's in this... Yeah, you see something's in this game I don't even do either, so I don't know how the fuck anything works. Or you can look up rank, you'd be like, oh, this guild is like killing it, I want to join that guild, but they probably have like insane requirements, right? So maybe you scroll down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm on the Discord and they all want like 8K Legion. I'm not even close to that.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to have some kind of guild that's either more accepting or start, you know, lower and build your way up, or maybe grow with a guild. Maybe you really like the people there and everyone's like ambitious and you grow with them. That'll totally depend on how that guild
definitely
goes.
Definitely more of a turn on for me, yeah.
Yeah, traits is kind of like a not super important system. I see you have the charm already. Probably fell into the trap of using a charm potion early.
I did, yeah. Was that bad?
Well, what I talked about before, like if you're missing like an equip in your stat window or something, or in your equip window, it's not very important. There's a reason why they're not there yet, so you slowly grow into that. There's some other stats that are harder to level, so usually try to advise to use those stat growth potions and those instead, because this is a marathon, right? Not a sprint. So we're always looking at like the long-term thing. The things that help you a lot will be insight in terms of damage and empathy in terms of buff duration. These will be very useful, and these will be very slow to level. So if you have trait boost potions, I would use them on those too, and like could kind of like equally level those up. Insight has a thing called ignore elemental resistance, which almost doesn't exist in this game. It's like very few resources, and all the bosses have elemental defense, so it'll ignore part of that, which is basically the only way of getting that extra damage. And empathy gives buff duration, and there are limited sources of that as well, and it'll just stack with everything, so that's nice. Ambition will level quite automatically if you're doing bosses. It seems like you're definitely going to be doing that, so ambition will max out, no worries there. And then charm, basically, past level 30, the only thing that's important for charm is you get to unlock facial expressions, so, you know, once it gets those levels, and then once it gets it, you kind of forget about it. Diligence doesn't do anything in Reboot, and Willpower, I think, gives a little bit of defense and a little bit of stat resistance. So it's like long-term, a little bit of survivability, but you've got plenty of that, so definitely not a priority for you.
So empathy and insight are super important.
Okay. Yeah, empathy a little bit less than insight, but both of them will level very slowly and are useful for you. Because if you have more buff duration, then
insight.
Yeah, prioritize insight for damage, and more empathy if you're just like for general game. You know, if you have more buff duration, you just don't have to rebuff as often. But if you're using auto buff, then, you know, it's not that important unless you're specifically a buff duration class, which you are not.
Okay.
Buff duration classes off the top of my head is like Luminous, Kaiser, and the Explorer Mages, just because of how the mechanics work with the skills that they have. Hyperstats, I see you run the second preset, so you've got one for boss and one for mobbing.
No, I have no presets. That was just me messing up on the first, and I went to the second.
Okay.
I have nothing else allocated. I don't really know how to allocate them properly. I'm way over crit cap right now. So I just didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, so
like,
if
I
you
have
the
like
reset...
130% crit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm over, like, a lot.
Did you get a little bit from the current event as well?
I might have, yeah, and then I worked on the Legion, I got the Marksman, I got the Night Lord, so that's also there. And then the Beast Tamer is going to come as well soon.
Yeah, so the thing with hypersets, there's a reason you have presets, there's a reason you have resets, because, you know, eventually things run out and we want to be able to move the points around. Okay, I guess a few rules of thumb. If you're going up, as long as you're not level 250, you probably don't have to go over level 10. It gets really expensive. You get a lot of reduced like value from your points as you go past level 10.
So keep them at level 10 for now.
Yeah, and like spreading out in more areas to go to level 10, even if that makes you go a little bit over what you might need or what the progression number says, it's still probably better value than going past 10. Once you go like 250 to 255 and you go like beyond that area, then it's pretty normal to get like some level 11s and level 12s in there. But up until that point, you just don't have the points, and it's better to spread them a little bit wider to just get more value, because the lower levels are just way cheaper, right? So if you just spread it over more stats, you'll just get better value back.
It's taking me like 80 to level something up, and I just don't want to even put any points into it anymore. So I have 73 saved up, and I haven't even put them in anything. I just don't know where to put it.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Okay, so like I have two general setups. So one would be my mobbing setup, one would be my bossing setup, and then so a reset costs you 10 mil, but if you just go to a different preset, switch presets, it's only 2 mil. But if you haven't used that one yet, you basically get a cheaper reset, right? So that saves a little bit of money. So I had this visualized, but mainly what it comes down to, so there's like a blob in the middle that's very important, right? Like the early ones, just this, like flat stat does not get multiplied by your percentage stat from your gear and everything. So that's really just like a castaway for like leftover points.
So that sucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay, but really just later with like the leftover points, right? When everything else is like level 11 and 12 and you're looking for 100 points to level that, if you could put like 20 points into that, that's good value for those 20 points. But it's really just leftover points.
Just putting 1 in because it costs 1.
Exactly.
So why not?
The second thing with like don't go over 10 basically until you get to 250 is be okay with leaving some leftover points. You don't have to necessarily spend every single point, because then if you get to the next level, you might have been able to level up the big skill, right? Whereas if you use the points, then you have to wait another, and then you keep waiting. And then what happens is that you have everything at like level 9, and then literally everything at level 9, and then you're like, ooh, now you have to reset, because if you have weapon attack at 9 and stat at 9 and, you know, some other stuff at 9, like, those points could have been 10 or 11 in the more important stats. So it's okay up to 250 to also just let some points hang, as long as you're working on getting up to level 10. So the main thing is like the block in the middle: critical rate, critical damage, IED damage, boss damage, and normal monster damage. Like, these are definitely the most important ones. And you can already...
Is it important for Paladin, IED? I have so much of it.
Yeah, it's important, and there's a limit to it, right? So if you check the progression grid as well, like IED is very high up there. It's a very important stat.
I figured because I have 50% for free, and then I already have 60. I didn't think I needed like that much.
Yeah, 60 is still on the low end, but we'll explain IED in a little bit on how that works.
Well, I heard it's like if you have 6, so if the boss, for example, has like 100%, you have 60% to that, so it brings it to 40, right? And then if I were to have like 100%, it'd be 100% of the remaining amount, right? So it doesn't like add together. So just because I have 60% and then 50% from a buff, that doesn't mean I have 110%. That's correct, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the problem is that bosses go over 100% on their defense. So even if you ignore a bigger part, but there's still a bigger part left, and the part of defense that's left is a final damage penalty. So that's why that's what this number is based on. It's based on like how many resources do you have, what is your accessibility to those resources, and also how much what's called PDR, so that's physical damage reduction, do the bosses have, and how much damage is then left, and how much does this basically reduce the efficiency of all of your upgrades. So like to use a mathematical example, like if you had 65%, the boss is 100%, has 35 left, you ignore another 50%, so 17.5 is left. That means you do 82.5% of your damage. That's not terrible, but it's also, you know, if you would add an extra line of 30%, you ignore another 30% of that 17.5 that's left. That's about 5.2, you're left with like 12% or something. Well, now you're doing 87% of your damage, right? So you increase from 82.5 to 87% of your total damage. That's about like a 6% final damage increase. If you had to look at how else can you get that damage, well, go down the list, right? Like how much do you have to spend on all your potentials? How much boss damage could you be getting, right? But like the further you go, the bosses will have like 300% defense. If you're going to Lotus and Damien, those have 300%. So if you're ignoring 65% of 300%, you're still left with 105%. And ignore 50% of that, you're still left with more than 50% defense, which means you only deal like 48% or something of your final damage. Which basically means, you know, your investments in your character are never going to be 100% efficient. But to have them be less than 50% efficient, that means you're going to have to spend a lot more time and a lot more money to get the same amount of damage out. And you definitely want to be getting more IED by that point. And you're getting to that point where even, I think if you do Helix, I think is 250%. So you're getting to the point where just adding one line of IED might actually increase your final damage output by like 20%, unironically. I'd be like, oh, this is...
So I avoided Luminos because I said, oh, I don't need that anymore. Right? I avoided that link skill. I thought Paladin didn't need it, or didn't need that much, but okay.
Yeah, you don't need that much, but the thing is like the opportunity cost, right? If you're familiar, are you familiar with that? Yeah. So like, sure, maybe you don't need it, but what other link skill are you going to get instead, and how much is that going to affect your damage? And this is really
like
where...
I have a really primitive mind when I look at it, because I'm like, oh, Lara Link's skill seems good, 5% damage. That seems pretty good, right? So that's how I'm thinking. I mean, you'll see when I show what I have linked right now, what I've been working on.
Yeah, but this comes into play with like the different setups. So in the past, it was just like, you know, just level your thing. But now it's more like you have specifically more like a bossing setup and a mobbing setup. So when you're bossing, you're really going to prioritize... Both mobbing and bossing, you'll prioritize the same thing, which is crit rate. You want to get to that 100% crit rate. Like, that's the most important thing. And then once you get into crit rate, critical damage is most likely going to be increasing your damage by the most. So you're probably going to have like a crit rate of 7 or 8, critical damage probably at 10 for most classes. Now, if you build more crit rate yourself, you just go as low as you need to, probably like level 1, 2, or 3. You typically still go up to level 5 just because it's so free. And then if you have level 5, that might mean that maybe now you don't need a certain link skill, right? And then the link skill becomes available, and that one might give you damage instead. And then you start like moving the pieces around. In the beginning, you're just slamming everything on that you have. But as you get exits, you know, if you have like 10 link skills, you put all those 10 link skills in there. But once you have 14, you're going to be like, okay, this one kind of gives me more damage, but I need the crit. Where can I get the crit? You know, can you move it around in the Legion grid a little bit? Can you get a little bit more from hyperstats? And maybe by moving all of those around a little bit, you lose like 3% damage. But now you can put a damage link skill and it gives you like 10%. Boom, 7% upgrade, right? So in the beginning, you just slam everything on you have. And then the understanding of like where does all the damage come from and what is the value in those individual fields, it'll come as you get access to more stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables in this game, like a ton, so... That's
yeah, it looks like a kid's game, but it gets pretty complicated pretty quickly.
Well, it was a kid's game. I played it when I was a kid. Played it when I was like 8, you know? And play on your assassin and chaos people, like that's all it was,
throw
right? So much more
throw some stars around, attack claw, and then that was it, basically.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Yeah,
so... I like the game, you know, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, it's so different, like...
Oh, yeah.
Years and years of being absent, you know, like... It's just all this information, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, so for all of these things, there's like individual commands you can look at, right? And that's why they're linked through the progression grid as well. You know, like you want to talk about level, there's some extra information here. For stat, there's some information for other classes. For crit, I have exclamation mark crit. For all the sources of critical rate, all the sources of critical damage, you could just look at a list of like, where can you get crit from even, you know? There might be a source that you haven't even considered yet that's like, oh, this one is very easy. You can get like 10%. Boom. Suddenly... Oh, 10%? That means you can take away like 5 levels between level 10 to 5 on your hyperstats. That's a whole lot of hyperstat points that just become available. Boom, that can go to damage or something, right?
Yes.
So that'll help you move stuff around as you get that more. So for IED, I have what's called functional IED is what I call. So you have what I call visual and functional. Visual is just what you see in your stat window. And then functional is like how much are you actually applying when you hit a boss. So for you as a Paladin, that's very important to know that distinction because the difference is huge, right? Because you debuff a boss for 50% alone. And there might be some other stuff that comes in later. But basically the difference is what is applied on hit. So that can be a certain skill buff, a certain boss debuff, or a party member debuffing a boss, for example. That'll be your functional IED, like how much is actually applying. And that's that difference that you were talking about with that 50% if you apply that debuff to the boss or not. Because your stat window doesn't know that what you're going to hit is debuffed or not, right?
Yeah,
and it doesn't know which skill you're going to be using. So that's another reason why you...
Kind of a little bit, right? That's that window.
Yes, yeah, that's why you want to take it with a grain of salt and like... It's a good foundation, but you have to understand more about the game.
Taking it as if it was the Bible, right?
Yeah, yeah,
like,
you
okay,
definitely don't.
This is what it means.
The further you go, the more you move away from those numbers on there. Yeah.
Okay. Because I would add damage, like as you can see, I have 11 points of damage. Just like, oh, that means I'm stronger.
Mm-hmm. It does. That is a good stat to affect, but it's good to know how much, right? So yes. General understanding of damage is, so when you're talking normal monsters, it's damage percent, normal monster damage percent added together. That one clump is final damage. So if you have like 40 damage to normal monsters and you have like 100% damage, your base damage is always 100%, right? Otherwise you would hit 0 damage. So you have 100 base. How much did I say? 100%? And then another 40 is so that your total damage is like 240. Like that's one clump of your final damage. So if you find something that gets you like 24% damage because it's additive, compound, then your total, your final damage on normal monsters would go up by 10%. It would, the numbers if you see in 1 mil now, it would go to 1.1 mil basically. So that's a way that you can generally like gauge how much is my damage going up. If you're taking boss damage instead of normal monster damage, that gets taken out because it's not a normal monster, right? And then boss damage gets supplemented by that, probably a bigger number. So usually if you're looking at boss damage, it's very, very valuable early on. But the further you get, you have to start looking at like how much do I have. Some classes, their damage and their boss damage combined during a boss fight might go up to like 1,000%. Well, now if there's something that can give you like 2% boss damage, it'd be like, okay, cool, but that's 0.2% or 0.02, you know, like it gets very, very small there. So then you have to look at that, what was I talking again about? the comparative advantage, right? Like, instead of this, is there something else that can also give me damage, and how much does that give me roughly? Now, this gets very, very, very deep into it. So, I want to bring it back to the surface level. So, the main stats you want to be looking at, if you're working into your hyper stats, is that clump in the middle. And then, if you're attacking normal monsters, you don't need any IED. You don't need any boss damage, so you can just ignore those for the mobbing setup. But you can go a little bit lower. You could definitely put them, once you kill the monsters, right? You can put them in bonus EXP. That way you get a little bit more per monster that you kill. And you can put them in Arcane Force if you need it to increase your Arcane Power so you can keep killing the monsters more quickly. Even though this is an invisible way of giving you damage, but if you hit the metrics, right, for the map that you're training on, you gain yourself final damage. And that's going to give you more than any of the other ones will. So that's a good one to take into account, that you have as like a secret weapon.
Alright, so I should work on presets. That's a big one, definitely.
Yeah, I would just look at the important stats, get enough crit, get the other ones, all the other relevant stats, get them all to 10, and then if you have...
So what are the 3 presets I should have? Bossing, and then normal training?
Like a mobbing one and a bossing one, that's the most important. And then typically the third one is like an extra arcane power setup for extra bonus damage on the black mage once you have event arcane power.
Sure, okay.
Yeah. Because you can technically get to 10% final damage bonus if you have max symbols with event buff and arcane power intercept. You get extra 10% final damage on the black mage, and because you want to squeeze out all the damage that you can possibly get, that's a huge one. But yeah, you really don't need that third setup as you probably expected for a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's, yeah, and then when you're bossing, basically no bonus EXP needed, probably no arcane power needed, but again, maybe, right? If you're just getting into a new area, you want to do Lucid, you want to get some bonus damage. Maybe once you get into Will is a high requirement, even though you can access him pretty quickly at 235, but to do max bonus damage, you need 1,140 arcane power, and he's level 250, so unless you're approaching level 245 or above that, your damage on him is just going to suck. Right. If you lose like 20% final damage because of arcane power requirement, you lose like 30% final damage because you're lower level, and then you lose like 50% damage because you don't have enough IED. You have 100% final damage loss, and you're hitting ones. So you're essentially just not doing anything. Like your familiars are out damaging you. Yeah. So that's why it's good to know like where does damage come from, what are those metrics, how high do I want to be at those, and that's where the progression grid just always comes in and be like, hey, work on this, you know. So if something you're far beyond, you can be like, oh, I can kind of chill on this. If something is like horribly lacking, you can be like, okay, I know I can get a lot of value out of this, right? So it helps you kind of prioritize and time manage as well.
Okay.
Okay, so that's hyperstats. Yeah, and everything else kind of follows from that, right? I think we touched on most of these things. Yeah. So Meso-Obtain and drop rate, that's definitely explained a lot in the drop rate command. So typically early on you go for 5 lines of Meso-Obtain, 4 lines of drop rate, because you have a total of 9 accessories that can get these lines. And Meso-Obtain from equips only stacks up to 100%, and you'll get that in those 5 lines. And then we get as much drop rate as possible to make sure that all of the monsters drop a bag, and that you get as many node stones, event items, etc., you know, droplets. Okay. And then later you can go over, because drop rate does not cap there. Drop rate caps at 200%. So you can go up to 10 lines of drop rate. So you might even need an item with 2 lines if you want to max out on that for equips. So that's why those equips can get a second life if you have like like an in-between damage piece or something. That can always become a drop rate piece later on, and it could just help you on bosses that much more.
Okay.
All right. So did any topics get mentioned when you were like, I have no idea. You said flames, right? I have a specific flame video that basically, if you get through that video, it'll allow you to see any flame on any item, and you'll know if it's good enough or it's not good enough. It'll basically help you calculate what's called the flame score. And there's also a calculator that someone in the chat made where in the beginning, if you're struggling, you could just put all the numbers in and it'll just give you the number, basically. The thing is with flames is that your stats are constantly moving, right? You're going to get, in the beginning, you're going to get a lot of flat stat. Then you're going to get a lot of percentage stat once you start working on potentials. Then you're going to get a lot of weapon attack once you start working on Star Force past level 15. You know, past 15 you're going to get a lot of weapon attack. That's going to be kind of invisible. But that means that you get more value from percentage attack. So all of these things are connected, right? Like I talked, like damage is one blob of final damage. There's a bunch of those. Like stat is one blob. Final damage is one blob. Critical damage is one blob. IED is one blob. Arcane power is one. Sacred power is one. These are all like separate blobs. But these all interact with each other to form like your total damage output. So how do you keep track of all of that? You can't. And it's fucking impossible, right? So the further you go, the further you want to min-max. There's just this giant calculator where you could just put all your stats in, and then you could just see how much does 1x equal in number of y, right? It'll just tell you. So you can have kind of an idea of what do I need to invest into. But to take a really big step away from that, generally we kind of know in the stages of the game, that's what these numbers are based on as well, is what do you have generally access to, and how are these stats going to generally compare to each other. And that's what comes to the flame score. So basically, if you look at an item, you'll be able to see this is roughly how much main stat, if you take all of the flame stats together, the green number, this is how much flame score it is. So if this was like 80 strength, if you're a strength character like you are, or it's like 20 strength, and I'm just going to give you like off the top like 3 attack and 4 all stat, for example, maybe that's exactly 80 as well. So you know that these things are just roughly comparable, and you can have more confidence in like, oh, this is good enough, because it'll depend on, you know, how much you want to spend and everything. But there's also different types of items: flame advantage, no flame advantage, and they will have vastly different outcomes. Like early on, everything is shitty, but you'll see pretty quickly between like the flame score for advantage items and non-advantage items, it's you know, you get like double, more than double, triple, like it gets pretty crazy. And there's cost calculators as well, where you can just put in like, hey, how much would it cost if I were to, you know, get like a 40 flame score on this item? If it's an item with flame advantage, it'll probably be like, you know, on average like 30 mil or something. If it's an item without flame advantage, it'll probably be like an average of like, you know, 3.5 bill or something. So you're like, oh, okay. You know, and then you know what you asked about way in the beginning with the eternal flames. Then you know where your eternal flames should be going, right? Because it's like, oh, the average return on this is like 0.001% of getting something good. I'm going to use it on a higher level item, the highest level item I have, with flame advantage that has the biggest room to grow. So as long as you have something that is like, let's say like 30 stat below roughly what is a nice number here, you say it has a decent amount to grow. If it's like 30 below this one, it's got the same room to grow, but you know, the average outcome is going to be way worse. So at that point, you basically, once you understand the flame score and you've done some of the numbers and you can see the numbers next to each other, you can see the difference really quickly on, oh, this item has the biggest room for growth. Typically in the beginning, that's the weapon. But if you're working towards Abso, you probably have like an okay item now. We can look at it in a little bit. And you're probably just saving up that resource or really focusing on getting that Abso weapon. And then you're going to start pushing really hard on individual pieces, because that's just going to be so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a little bit ethereal now, but we're technically already almost at the end of the session, so I want to make sure that we do cover the topic at least a little bit. But if you watch the flaming video, it should become pretty clear, and then you should be able to tell for any flame, like, is this good enough, or does this need a whole lot of work? And typically buying flames, I would only buy flames if you're trying to go for a really good flame on your weapon, or if you're preparing to transpose something. Transposing is also explained in the transfer hammer video, so while you're checking that one out, you can also look into that. It's a little bit more later in the game, but it'll become relevant soon-ish. It's just good to know so that you know what you're like getting ready for.
Yeah. Okay.
Essentially. Cool. So the general priority of stats that I talked about in the hyperstats, that's essentially the same priority when it comes to which link skills do you level first, which legion buffs do you chase first, what squares on the grid in your legion do you fill first, right? They basically all have the same priority. So they're all moving in the same way together. They can complement each other, and then as soon as you start seeing that there's like a bigger opportunity in one than in another, that's when you start moving the pieces around. And like in most systems, you have like your main stat, your attack, your strength, you have that in your foundation early on, But as soon as you get access to those other stats, that's when you start moving into those, like into the critical rate, into the critical damage, into the ID, into the boss damage. And because so I'm looking at the grid now, for example. So if you're attacking normal monster damage is actually really big because you don't have that much total damage at this point, right?
Yeah.
If you have enough critical rate, then you can ignore that for now. But critical damage, like you've already identified here, is huge. So you do want to go into that one. IED, when you're mobbing, is garbage. When you're bossing, it's really, really good, but it's a multiplicative system, right? So if you can only get like 5% of this, 5% in itself is a pretty weak bonus. Right?
Yes.
If you have but once you can start getting compounding, or this is 6, right? You can start getting 6 and 7 together. Well, now you have 13%. That's already a decent source, but then it goes up to 21, up to 30, up to 40. So like a clump of 40 IED is massive, right? So if you can only have like a few sources of IED, but they're huge, that will help a lot. So further on, that's why growing your Legion is just so massively valuable, right?
Yeah, try to get them to 140 because that's I feel like that's like kind of like a good baseline, right?
Yeah, so for Link skill and Legion, if you want to know like some kind of idea on like which characters to level, what to work on, this has all the intervals of like when is the damage given, and when does it rank up, and what are all the stats on all the characters, and what do they give. And that basically rolls out, at least to me, that logically rolls out like what is in general the order that I think the characters go from most value to least value for your account just from that aspect.
I see, and you have that on the side there, so you have like it's all
yeah, it's basically the first column.
Yeah,
because I just identified like which stats are the most important to start with that give you the most damage to get you started,
that makes sense.
And then that just go from bigger number to smaller number. And
I'm just really looking for like just things to do, you know, like alchemy level 6, right? Like insight, empathy, like things that I can kind of like take with me and then follow, right?
Yeah,
that's what's gonna help me really. Obviously with the account.
Yep, for sure. And then every next character you're probably going to focus on that a little bit less, but if you do it a little bit for all of them, it'll be compounding gains for sure.
Okay.
So this is under !Links or under !Legion. You'll find this one if you need that. And I'm assuming that some of these characters you probably already identified and you probably already made. We've got the Beast Tamer and Zero creation coming soon, so definitely don't forget to make those. You don't have to level them right away, but make sure they're created on your account because they're both pretty high on the list. It should be where is Beast Tamer? Beast Tamer is the second one, and Zero should be pretty high. Yeah, Zero is also here because it gives you extra EXP block just for being in the grid, which is huge. So for comparison, if you were to get like a full block Legion, filling the 40 spaces from the bonus EXP on the top right, that gives you the same amount of EXP as just a level 200 Zero block just by itself. Just having that. So that's when it comes to eventually you want to have both, but if you can only have one of the two, well, one is definitely a lot easier to in terms of time commitment than the other one, right? So. Yeah, that's how you can kind of look at those stats and like where they come from.
Okay.
So link skills is the same thing, right? You just prioritize on the same stats, and if you find that you're like, crit rate is super important. I'm at 130. Take some crit rate out. Take the Phantom Instinct out. Start replacing it with something that gives you a little bit more damage. You're moving around a lot. Had a battle. You have that one. You have Solace. But you can just use this, right? You can just use the Legion and Links to be like, okay, I'm going to be mobbing. Cool. Okay, start from the top left. I need crit rate. Okay, I have enough. Cool. Move to the next one. Critical damage.
I see.
Throw them all in there. Damage. Cool. This damage is only to normal monsters. I can skip that one because I'm going to be bossing. Cool. I'm going to be mobbing. Then I want to take that one, right? And in the same way, you'll just make 2 presets for Link skills, just in the same way that you did for hyperstats, and then you can just switch between them in the preset window right here.
Yeah.
And you just click apply, boom, it just slams them all on there. Bob's your uncle. You got it.
Okay.
Familiars, I have a specific command for under !Familiars.
I don't even use mine. Like I have all these cards, I don't even open them. I have empty slots. I haven't looked too much into. I don't know how important they are. Yeah,
it just all connects with everything. The IED from this is the The opportunity cost is the lowest from any IED basically early on. There's nothing else that you can really get from low level. Like you can get some drop rate and you can get some IED. That's all you can get for a long time from familiars. So you'd want to get the IED there because that'll take the pressure. Yeah, it'll take the pressure off of the IED needed for all the other sources that you have, where you have way more options, right? You want to create more options.
I shouldn't be going for another line. Like I shouldn't be going for some. I don't even know what they can roll.
Yeah, so if you check exclamation mark familiars, it's basically all in there. So in the beginning, it's like all the stats of like, you know, how much does it cost to level 1 up, you know, how many cards you need, blah, blah, blah. What do the colors mean?
And it has to be from the same mob?
Yeah, if you want to rank up, yeah, but that's...
Oh, so that one sucks because I'm never training on that mob.
Yeah, if you want to rank it up, but if you rank up, you also re-roll the stats. So you want to have IED familiars. So in that sense, right now, this is one of the most valuable familiars you can get. The only one that would be more valuable would be one with 2 lines of IED, which is beyond impossible. There's maybe like, I don't know, like 10 of them on the entire server. No, that's maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but you'll almost never see that.
Yeah, but it's like impossible to get.
Yeah, it's just impossibly low chances. And then the other one that would be more valuable is if you have a rare card, the blue one, and it says increased drop rate. That's a 50% drop rate familiar, so that would be really valuable. So we definitely reveal them, see if you can find another one with 15 IED, because it's pretty easy to unlock your second slot. You'll also see how to do that. You'll have to get a badge. But just 1 badge unlocks your second slot already, so that's going to be really good value. But for your third slot, you need 10 badges, which is like impossible at this stage, so don't worry about that yet. And then it's got advice like on the last page, basically what to do in the early game, in the mid game, in the late game, and in the end game, kind of the general order to do things in, and then some resources and behind, like what are all the possible outcomes, what's the weight of the lines for the people who want to know that. And then it links again to the drop rate as well that I talked about before, because they're a very important part of drop rate, just like your accessories are, and how they interact with each other. And then for the badges, if you're going to start hunting badges, basically like which ones are easy to get, which ones are harder to get, if you're trying to go for that, basically for that third slot, which you won't be doing very early on.
How important is this? Should I work on this like over my professions right now? Because I'm kind of like, I don't know where to start, I guess. I don't know what to work on first.
Well, yeah, like I said, you just need 1 badge, and there's like 1 badge in Ardent Mill, for example, that you could just get 3 monster cards. You just double-click them, boom, you have your second badge, you're done. It could be like a 10 to 15 minute thing. If you get unlucky, it might be longer, but that's a very, very small thing to do. You can definitely just put it in your checklist and just get it done, yeah.
Sure.
God, I want to get into so much more stuff. I'm okay to go a little bit longer, but I kind of need to pee.
If you need to go, you can go ahead. I don't mind. I can take a quick piss break too. I don't mind.
Yeah, you can take a quick break, or you can talk to chat a little bit, but I'll be right back.
Okay.
Ooh. I can drink it, chat. Okay. Now I can talk a bit more calmly.
Alright, I'm back.
Okay, I just got back too. Now I don't have to talk like there's a fucking train chasing me.
Yeah. No, if you need to go, just go ahead. It's all good.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, can we like wrap it up real quick and then I can go? But then I was like, we still have some stuff to go through, so I should just go pee.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you too long. Yeah, I threw you a DM there, but yeah, just obviously what's really important to me is things to work on, kind of like in an order, like what you think I should work on. And then I'll just do it, you know, because I'm so lost with all the variants and all the things to do. I don't know what to prioritize to actually move forward. Like, you've given me a lot of information, which is really good. But it's still like, okay, well, how can I apply this efficiently in a certain order to move forward with the account? Does that make sense?
Yeah, honestly, I like not doing that in a sense of not to like throw someone into the deep end or anything, but more. I find that there comes more productivity and more possible new things that we can learn off of people experimenting a little bit themselves and kind of finding their own way as well. And I don't want to take that away from people too much. So that's why I have the progression and the dailies grid, so that you can have a general thing where you can start looking in that direction, and then whatever you choose to do within that is fine. Like, somebody who really likes playing a lot of characters might work on like an 8k Legion first, and then be like, okay, I'm going to find my main now. If you look at your progression grid, that doesn't fit in there at all. But I'm okay with people doing that, because it also means that if you have an 8k Legion, that means that every single character you're going to be playing, and especially once you get into the point where you kind of work on bossing mules, essentially now you've funded all of your characters already with a baseline of a lot of stat. And similar to the guild skills that you have access to, you're going to have way less trouble in all the other resources to get far enough to have your character be strong enough to have your level be representative for them, because you know it's going to take a little bit of effort from all of those other ones away, or like a decent amount from all the other ones away, because you worked on something that you really liked, like your Legion level. So something you really like is grinding and leveling and getting very far into the game. That will translate itself to getting access to sacred power faster and to all the arcane power faster, for example. And if you can keep doing that for a longer period of time, that's going to take away how much you need to upgrade all your equips, because you're still going to need the same main stat, but just more of it is going to come from those other sources. So that means you have to spend less money on cubes. Where can that money go then? Well, probably on star forcing, because if you're higher level, you get access to bosses faster, you can get backups faster, you can get higher level equips faster, which means you don't have to push quite as hard on the stepping stone equips, basically, but you'll be able to save more money and then throw it all when you get more semi-permanent or permanent gear, and then you'll be able to squeeze out more potential there earlier on, and you'll reach your later game potential much faster. And that's just, but that, yeah, it's really just those two things working together, like the dailies grid and so like if it's like a list of things to do, I mean, I would just like start with the dailies grid and see like, okay, what stuff do I like doing, start there and use that as kind of like a checklist. And if you do something one or two times and you're like, this is way too fucking inefficient, I hate this, then just take it off, you know. Don't make sure that in the morning you feel like logging in, and not that when you log out you feel like you've missed out on a lot of stuff. Because
the only way I feel like that is with clovers, and I actually hate clovers. I bought the tool and I hate it. It's the worst thing. I don't know why it takes so long to get them. Like, you know, because I don't really like grinding too much. Like, I like grinding in the daily aspect, but I love working on like I like playing other characters. Like Paladin's still my favorite no matter what, like so far. But yeah, like I really like working on the Legion, but I just don't know how much that actually pushes me in terms of versus cubing. Like, I have so many cubes and I don't know, like I'm scared to use them because I don't know where to use them.
Right,
and they expire in like a week.
Well,
so I'm trying to get the Princess Snow thing, and I have 14. It was like the worst thing. I looked at my inventory, I have 14 of them. It's like, oh my god, like I feel like these cubes are gonna go away, and jeez, yeah. So it's just, there's a lot, and I don't know where to put them. And
yeah, I see that. I mean, with the clovers, I'll repeat something I said in the beginning, but try to see something that you got as something that you gain more, rather than looking at like focusing on how much you missed out on. Like, if you can cap 400 clovers in a day and you got 200, see that as 200 and not minus 200. Because that is that's gonna fuck you mentally if you can't do that. You're gonna look at everything.
I'm trying to cap them every day, and it's just pissing me off.
But why are you trying to cap? What are you trying to buy?
the shop out? Because what if I miss out on those scrolls? Like, how important are the 17-star scrolls, right?
Well, we have a Shining Star Force event coming up on the 11th, where your money is basically going to be worth double on Star Forcing. So I think the most important stuff is getting as much.
Should I Star Force that day? Like,
yeah.
Should I just focus on?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We'll look at the equips in a little
15 bit. Or, oh yeah, okay. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get to the equips. Well, so generally like 30% off events, and like 1+1 event is really good to get stuff to 12, maybe on like bossing mules, or when you're working on Legion power after you get characters to 200. That's when 1+1 events are really good. 30% off is really good to get stuff to 15. That's very cheap there. And then 5, 10, 15 events are really good to get things past 15, basically, because 15 to 16 is 100%. That saves you a lot of money, and all you have to do really there is safeguard to 17. But now we have Shining, which is 30% off, and 5, 10, 15 at the same time. So you're just gonna save so much fucking money if you Star Force on that day. So basically, even if like mathematically, and you look at the progression, it's like, oh, technically there's a little bit more value for me in flaming or in cubing right now. Fuck all of that. Spend it on Star Force, because you're basically doubling your cash.
My missiles go longer. Like
you have 12.5. If you spend it on Star Forcing, you're getting 25 bill worth of value of progress. Like
that's what I did with the traits, because I was rolling traits off of event, and it was getting annoying because I wasn't getting enough points. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hold this, and whenever this happens, it happens, and it happened to happen, and then I got +1 speed. And then
the inner ability. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, so I got my +1 speed, so I was like,
Yeah, so inner ability has an event like that, right? So the main thing for that is I have event command, where I basically always look at the patch notes, and the patch notes have the announcements of when those what's called Sunny Sundays are going to happen. So I make this.
Oh, like well in advance.
Yeah, in Korea they only know like on Monday what that Sunday is going to be. But we get like an entire list with every patch. So that's why I go through the patch notes and I make this so you can kind of see which event is going on at any given time. We're in the week of the 7th already, so I'm going to just hide these rows here right now. Oh, which shows that these two that this one is gone. Nope, just this one. So I'm going to hide this one as well. Boom, and it makes it a little bit cleaner. So you can see, oh, we're in this week. You can see all the events that are going on. If you need information, you can just click and it'll link right to the patch notes. As you can see immediately, like you can read up on it. And this is like a general thing I think is very good to do with every event, is really just look at, okay, how much can I possibly get, right? And not just like, is this something that could benefit me, but is this something that I want and really need, right? Because everything can benefit you. You could want everything, but like, do you really need it, right?
Yes.
Because you have a limited amount of resources. So you'll get better at that with every event. You'll have one event where you try to get everything, then you burn out hardcore, and you're like, okay, I spent so much time on that, I actually neglected a bunch of other stuff, or I didn't actually want to do all of that. So it's very good at the beginning to look at, what are the rewards? Okay. And then see, like, what do I even want to get? What do I need to get? And then see, once the event actually goes live and you go after it, then you look at how much effort does this cost. And if you find that it's just more effort than you're willing to give, you go back to the drawing board. You go back to, what do I really... maybe you got some stuff that you added to the list that you want, but you don't really need. Just take some of those things off. Maybe there's some stuff that you need that you just can't afford. Then just look at what do you need the most and take some things off. Because it's totally fine to get like 100 to 200 clovers a day. That still in a month gives you like 6,000, anywhere from 3 to 6k clovers. You can buy quite a lot of stuff with that, right? And then you just do like, well, what do I...
Bank.
Yeah, exactly. Like get a piggy bank, at 2 piggy banks. That already gets you very far. Like right now, that's 20 bill. Like that's an insane amount of progress for an early game.
Can't get on another character. I think it needs to be 200, right?
Yeah, you have to be level 200 to pick it up on,
Yeah. So maybe I should probably do that then.
Yeah, so if you want to focus on like, okay, I can get enough for 2 piggy banks, and they'll give me 20 bill. Like they'll give you way more money than, and again, like you want to be like, okay, how important are those Star Force scrolls? We can calculate that, right? I said Scar Force. Oh man, that's a Freudian slip if ever I seen one.
Yeah.
You can go to the calculator. Yeah. And see, like, okay, let's say that you have your CRAPs, for example. Let's say that you have backup, so you don't have to safeguard, and that you currently have like 12, and you're going up to 17, right? And there's 5 and 15 and 30% off at the same time. How much does that cost you? It costs you between 400 and 470 mil. Okay, and that's
wow. Okay.
And that scroll is like what, 1200, and a piggy bank is 1700, and that gives you 10 bill. And this is, so this one is worth, what? Yeah. right? Like this puts things
No,
into perspective, right? And that's why those commands are very useful, because sometimes you'll be like, okay, well, do I need to like tier up my item and work on cubing? Well, let's see. Exclamation mark cubing. Let's see where you're at. Cost calculator. Let's put them next to each other, right? Let's say that you have like, oh, I have 2 bill to spend. Okay, I want to spend them on my shoes. My shoes are currently unique with like, let's say with 12%. I want to get at least 21% on them, so I need to get them to legendary. Okay, so let's say we use black cubes to get them to legendary. They're Absolute shoes. Or let's say that you're unique right now, and I'm going to use red cubes, item level to legendary. It can do... Okay, so the tiering up itself is already like 500 mil, and then once they're legendary, I want to get 21% stat, and that's like, yeah, so that's going to be like a little bit more than a bill, probably. Okay. Okay, what if I send that bill on star forcing it instead, you know? What if it's already like, let's say it's 17, or let's say that it's, I don't know, for a lot of people it'd be like 12 to 17, like how much does that cost? On a level 160 with safeguarding. Oh, that's also about a bill, right? So in the one end, you're gaining like 12% stat, and on the other end, you're gaining all of the bonus stats here. Well, how do you compare that? Well, now you can go back to the flaming thing, because remember the flaming score, that redirects everything to main stats. So now you can compare your apples and oranges and put them together, right? Let's say you're working towards endgame. Let's say you're a strength character. So one is gaining 12% strength, which is a little bit weaker than all stat, but let's give it all stat for now. Let's say that it's around, can you do save here? Bam. Let's say that Abzo Shoe, let's say that's about 108 flame score difference. And the other one is in Star Forcing. We have to get this one, I think. And this one has like this wiki page has a lot of like the base stats and the base numbers if you need to pull back to like any of the nerd stats, or just to get, you know, if you really want to get as deep as this, right?
Yeah. I mean, eventually when I get comfortable enough, yeah, right? Like when it actually like it becomes second nature.
Exactly. Yeah, and then when you really have a question, that means it's really close, and then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, because all this is just baby's first day for me, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's say we start with
my lunchbox and
12.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So for most items, it's just going to be, is this flame? Current stars total stats. So if you're at 12, you're at plus 31. And it's a shoe, right? So it doesn't have any of the other stuff. So you go from plus 31 to 160, 17 star. It goes to 26 and 18 and 40. So 64 stat and 18 attack. Versus this. So there's an extra 33 and 16. So if I put that in, 33 and 16. Oh, there we go. So it would be slightly more beneficial to do the Star Forcing.
Okay.
But not by much. So if there's a Star Force event, you go on a Star Force. If there's a cubing sale, then cubing is fine too to go for. You know, you have like the green light. Because it's about, what is it? Was it like 5% cheaper? But if the cube sale is 20 or 25% off, that makes that cheaper.
So I generally don't want to do things if, like, I want to do things on event rather than off event.
Yes.
So would you consider holding everything until there's an event?
So right now, we had cube sale. You spend a lot on that. There's Shining Star Force. Those are like brain dead, yes, go, like send events. There will come a time when there's like a 30% off event, for example, which again, like it's really good to get up to 15 stars, right? And you got to be like, I really don't have anything to work on. Like maybe I'll have like 2 or 3 items on like some mule that I'm working on, but there's nothing that I really want to send. Something that you can do because of like transfer hammer is the fodder, right? The fodder that will transfer in later. Let's say you don't have the Abzo pieces yet, but you're going to be working on them. If you have some level 150 pieces, you can use the 30% off event to just send them up to 15. Then pause them at 15, wait for a 5 to 15 event, then you can get to 16 guaranteed, then you can transfer it into the Abzo, then the Abzo can go from 15 to 16 again, guaranteed, and then all you have to do is safeguard that last star.
Okay.
So you can kind of prepare. But at that point, like just going for 15 or 30% off, that's just on like a few items. that's going to be like peanuts for you. Like that's not even going to cost that much. It's going to be like a detail, but it is an important detail of preparation for the further thing. But let's say there's a 5, 10, 15 and you don't really have anything that you actively want to work on because, you know, the last event before that was maybe a Shining, you know, and it's like, and like I could try to go for like 19 stars, but that's like too risky for me now or too expensive. Maybe do it on CRA and then you're still left with money. Maybe just work more on those potentials, you know?
Okay.
The further you get, the more events you will skip. In the beginning, you're basically going to use every single event that you can, but you're also going to be cubing and sometimes star forcing, but mainly cubing like off event, because even if there is a cube sale, it's not as much of a difference as the star forcing is. Plus, if you sit on all your money for too long, you want that money to be working for you, right? So it's really once you're going like up to 17 stars and beyond that you really just wait for event to event. Not to get railroaded into you're only allowed to on event, but if you go off event, the chance of failure or the chance of non-upgrading is just going to be higher. And you're also just going to need time to get those backups, right? Because those are time gated. And that's what I was telling you about very early on when we were talking about the kind of treasure ring and then if you can craft the Meister ring. A lot of items have just RNG on that you get them. So the sooner you start on them, the sooner you'll start seeing a pattern of like an item that's just luckier than the other ones. And that just means that whenever there's an opportunity to upgrade, that item gets taken first because you have a higher chance of succeeding in that upgrade. And then once that project is done and the next event comes around, another item will present itself, or we'll just be the luckiest at that point, right? It all just comes down to who you get the most for. So that way you can turn a negative of like not getting drops into a positive. Because it's like, well, you're going to get drops somewhere. You're never going to get unlucky on everything, right? There's always going to be something that kind of like peeks his head out, you know, one nail that sticks out. And that's just the one that you hammer.
Sure.
Yeah, so dailies as a general goal. So you have these resources. Yeah, we'll look at the cubes. Yeah, so that's the, events. We were at the event calendar. So some of the sunny Sundays, and you can see as well, you can see when the event is going to be. So take this screenshot here, and you can see every week what we're going to have. So we had, and I try to highlight as well which days I think are important. So Shining is boldened here, is like, Shining, very important.
Yeah.
So that's this one, and that's the last one we know. And that's another way to tell, like, oh, that's the last one we know. Oh, that's the end of the block of the update. So you also know when the next update is going to be. That's going to be on the 14th, right? So that way you can have like a general idea of like which block is happening where. So you also know that next week when we get the patch notes, we'll immediately know the sunny Sundays for like the next 4, 5, 6 weeks. Or maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 weeks up until that new patch. Maybe. So if you do that, you can start planning for the longer term, right? On like, when do I spend my money? What am I looking forward to? That'll also give you more peace of like, I don't need to be worrying that any moment there could be like an event popping out of nowhere and it's like, oh shit, I should have been prepared for this. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a lot in the beginning. You don't want to, like you're saying with the cubes, you don't want to be making any bad moves, so you don't make any moves. But if you don't make any moves with the things that you have, then you're essentially gimping your account. But you only know that if you know all the moves to make. So it's like a self-perpetuating thing. Yeah. So going for the secondary and waiting for that's definitely a good thing. Another Sunny Sunday is a Magnificent Soul event. So I talked about the soul shards, right, and the quality. If it's not a double S tier soul, oh god, I've opened so many things, but don't.
You want Magnificence, right? That's like the be-all, end-all. Like that's what you want.
Yeah, later on, the Magnificence is really where the stats come in, and it's only up to past a certain tier. I think it's S and above. I think that can even get so
they're not the same.
Not everyone can get Magnificence, and then the soul skill that you get from the Magnificence depends on which boss it is, and that could be different per boss as well. For that, you can check !souls. That has a link to the wiki page where you can read them, read all about them. Basically, early on. The damage you get from the soul itself is very minimal. From the passive of the soul is very minimal. So if the soul itself can do something, that's probably the best value that you can get. So any soul that's a summon can do something for you, which early on, I think it's only... God, I think it's normal... I think it's the Hilla soul, the non-magnificent one. I think the Ursus one, and I believe the Queen one. That are a summon that will follow you and do a little bit of extra damage. It's small though, so it's not that important,
Yeah.
but it can do something. And then really, once you get into Absolab and above, you want to get a Magnificent double S Soul. You want to get something good. The Magnificent ones are non-perishable, so they don't have expiration date, and they're transferable. So you can scale up as well, like with the weeklies, right, for Scrapyard and Dark World Tree. You can scale up on these by doing multiple characters, so you have more soul shards to use whenever there's an event. That's what I was saying. The Magnificent Soul event, that's 5x the chance. So usually if you double click them, you have 1% chance of getting Magnificent Soul. During this Soul event, you have 5% chance, which is still really bad, but it basically means it's completely useless to tap them out of event. Yeah. And again,
so only open those
you need
on those days.
Okay. Yeah. Again, you don't have
they don't
to
expire, because I opened one once. I opened like an Arc Soul, and then it expired. And I said, what the fuck's the point? Like, why would I? Yeah, so
within that time, you either throw it on a weapon, or you let it expire, or you could put it into the Soul Book, but that's...
Yeah, it sucks. It gave, like, luck. It gave luck, so I was like, yeah, this thing sucks, whatever.
Yeah, Arc is not a good example, but you can put them into the Soul Book as well if you want to. Every time I open... It's so irrelevant that every time I do this, there's at least, like, 10 people in the chat, like, what even is this book? But you can put your leftover souls in the book, and if you end up using the soul and you have the full page for it, you'll unlock a stronger version of the skill, basically. But again,
that's not relevant.
Not really, because for most souls, we don't even use the souls anymore. We just want to keep. We basically take it for the passive of the soul, right?
It's a stat stick, is all it is.
Yeah. So if you look at my weapon, that has you can see it's a soul weapon on the bottom where it says that gray number, the out of 1,000 attack and magic attacks. So when you charge that, that gives you the extra power. So that's this here. And the attack 3%, that's the passive from the boss, from the soul. And the soul is the Magnificent Crimson Queen that you can tell there, right above it, the yellow, and all the way up top in the name as well. It says Magnificent Crimson Queen. And if you check ! souls, that's when you can see like the tiers of everything, and you can see the possible outcomes. So you can see Magnificent Queen. You can recognize her. That's this lady over here, and you can see all the possible outcomes. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you see the Magnificent. You see that it doesn't expire, it doesn't even say that here, but you'll see all possible outcomes. So there's another RNG layer here on which stat you get. You can get one of these.
Holy shit!
So you got RNG on the drop, then RNG on getting Magnificent, and then you got RNG on the outcome. So this is why it's one of those long-term things. Yeah. And that's why scaling up on other characters might be a valuable thing, so that you can, do something with them at some point.
Because you can transfer them.
Yeah, Magnificent ones. Yeah, those you can transfer. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's pretty important then. All right.
Yeah, and again, it's not as important early on, but it becomes more important as you go. So you'll find the balance for that. Is it this one? And if you're playing way too much on way too many characters, you can start building like a museum of them. Yeah, and then your inventory can look something like this.
Okay.
This is one of the characters that has souls.
One. Wow. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are the ones that are under double S tier. So these are essentially not used. I could use these on like a Bossing Mule's fake Absolab weapon or Fafnir weapon maybe. That's where they would get some value. It would be weapon attack or main stat basically, right? But if I had a higher level character with, or if I wanted to complete the book, right, just for like aesthetics purposes or whatever, I could use those. But if you do enough bosses, eventually you'll get a whole list like that. Yeah, as soon as possible, Mario.
Okay.
Yes, and then whenever the cube sales are in the cash up, so those are announced on Wednesdays when the cash up is updated, or when the Wednesday cash up update is announced on the website. So that one is in a separate location. But typically, if there is a cube sale, everyone's talking about it. They tend to be around a month before. Well, this is like a general calendar thing, I guess. Cube sales tend to be about a month before DMTs, and DMTs tend to be around March, July, and December. So, again, don't expect them, so that if they don't happen, you're not disappointed. But if they're going to happen, they're mostly, most of the time, somewhere around that time. So then you're warned. And then, yeah, the other ones are always just on Sunday, so always keep an eye out on the patch notes, basically. Resources looking good. You're working on those coins. Are you working on the dineros? Are you working on leveling up the boat? Have you looked into Commerci at all?
No, all I do is I do my voyages. That's it.
And which ones do you do? Do you do like the low level ones, high level ones?
There's this video I watched, and they say this is the max you can get without doing any party quests, and that's all I do. So I do like the low level ones, I guess.
Yeah, just like I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't know when to spend them. Like because then if I get the monocle, it breaks my 9 sets. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, well, I talked about it before, right? When you move out of like the drop and meso pieces and you go into like the superior plus Sweetwater set, that's when you break the set. So so basically when you're looking for superior to set the tone there, because even by itself superior gear is pretty shitty. It's just their set bonus that's so broken. So once you have all the pieces, then you can start moving those pieces in, and that's when you want to have the other pieces and you buy the other ones. So I wouldn't
just like wear the Sweetwater alone, like the monocle. Okay.
So yeah, some people might do that, but a lot of times you don't do it because they don't have flame advantage, right? We talked about that a little bit. So the average flame outcome is going to be shittier. They're more expensive to upgrade because it's a higher level item. More expensive to re-roll with every cube because it's a higher level item. And it doesn't have a set bonus. So it has a higher potential up at the top end because of the Star Force. It can go higher, but it has a way weaker early on value where in the game you are. So you don't want to have to spend a whole bunch of money on an item that's probably going to be a drop or meso piece anyway, just to get to parity of what you already have, right? If the function of it is going to be a damaging part, you want to first wait until you have the money to make it a damaging part, and then when you have it, then you want to send it. So if you're going to play longer term, what you can do is you can work on your boat. So I think you're doing this one here is one Rosa voyage with most expensive items, and then the rest Luna. I think that's what you're doing, right? Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so that's like the more casual, like mid-game approach. If you're just trying to get in and get out for that content. If you want to do like end-game approach, basically you just level up your boat to the max, get it to level 10, upgrade it, work on leveling it up again, and then you can do then you can get the Dreadnought boat, and then you can just slam that first voyage. That's like 30 seconds. You could do that one 12 times, so you can be done in like 6-7 minutes. That way you get like 48 dineros a day from that, and you can get extra dineros from the international voyage as well once you've unlocked Herb Town.
Okay.
If you want to go for the longer term approach on that. There's a lot of people talking about like just not doing Commerci, not getting the things at all. You can definitely kind of work your way around it. The problem is just that all the alternatives are RNG, and this one is just guaranteed because you get enough dinero, you can buy it.
Yeah, I don't mind doing it every day. Like, I do the bare minimum, and I'll get there when I get there, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean it's also on the list of the dailies, right? Is it solo voyages? Yeah, and Commerci PQ is right next to it. Have you ever done a Commerci PQ before?
No.
You don't need any dineros for that, so it's like extra bonus. But once you unlock Herb Town, which is it's the first
I'm on that step. I haven't done it.
On the second page, then you can go to what's it called? International Voyage or something. Why do I have this uploaded twice? Hang on. Oh, because this was where we used to transpose the earring. Yo, can I delete image? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. That's just going to be confusing for people. It's like International Voyage. I think you talk to the NPC Maestra Fiametta. I think it's like the third option or something. And you basically just get 3 people and you do 3 voyages that are just separate. They're a little bit different. And they just give you extra dineros. And there's a decent chance you get some Sweetwater's weapons as well. But they're not going to be relevant for your progression. But for other characters they might be if it takes you a while to get the CRA on them. The Sweetwater weapon is a really good weapon because it has built-in 10 IED and 30% boss, like the Fafnir weapon. So you can get that to kill CRA faster and then switch into the Fafnir after it.
Okay.
Yeah, Merchant Trade Union is what it's called, yeah. Droplets goes into Arcane, so that's going to be quite a bit further. But it's a pretty similar system. Like you get the droplets are basically the equivalent of the weekly rocks, right, from Scrapyard and Dark World Tree. And then the bosses drop their pieces respective. Like Lucid is basically like Lotus, and Will is basically like Damien. They have the same type of items in their respective shop.
Oh, so that's like the next tier then.
Yeah, It's really just a step for, but you don't have weeklies for those droplets. But they've added it now that you can buy them from the NPCs, so that basically just gives you the option to brute force on another character if you want to.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, the armor shards basically have no value anymore, because you can't get the recipes anymore to use them. I still have them, the recipes and the shards as a result, and I'm a hoarder, so I have like stacks of them. But they have no value anymore at this point.
Okay, so I can toss them.
Yeah, if you really, if you're not attached to them emotionally in any way, then you can toss them.
Yeah, if they don't like benefit me, I don't care to have them.
The Magnus coins typically are used for Tyrant Shoes if you stay out of Absolab for a while. So if you just don't want to do Absolab, you could just, but you can do HMAG. Then after a while, you could just afford Tyrant Shoes. That's a pretty big upgrade. But other than that, they can be used to buy level 150 gloves. So let's say that you have an event coming up, like a Shining Star Force, and you have these coins that you can afford level 150 gloves with, like you can. But you don't have the Absolab glove yet, for example. I don't know if you have no Absolab yet, right?
No, I only have the weapon from the event.
Okay. Yeah, then you could say, I'm just going to buy one of those gloves, which you buy at the dark market on your way to, the black market, on the way to the Magnus Castle.
Yeah, okay. And there's an NPC there, and I can exchange them there.
Yeah, and then...
And you're saying get the shoes.
No, so the shoes you can buy for those coins in Root Abyss, and then the gloves you can buy over there in Grandis.
Okay.
But the cool thing is that they can stay as coins, so they don't have to fill up your inventory. Because what will happen is you're going to have a lot of backups for a lot of different things, and your inventory is going to get fuller and fuller. So the cool thing with this is that you can just buy them on the event itself and buy as many as you need right there in the moment, right? So you don't have to have your whole inventory like full of like pink bean belts and dominator pendants and Kana treasure rings, and because it's going to become a big mess. So as much as because we have no trade, right? We have nowhere to like lock these items and just hold them, and we can't put them in storage at all. So your inventory is basically going to become like a museum of stuff that you had before. Plus, it's going to become a future-proofing as much as you can, plus some memorabilia and things you're attached to. Like it's gonna, plus all the different sets, and then once you get into Oz rings, you're gonna need room for that. So, yeah, anywhere you can save some space is a good idea.
Okay.
I forgot where I put the extra.
Save those Gollux coins for. Should I get the earrings, right? Like,
yeah. So, so the earrings and the belt can drop from the boss straight up. So typically we buy either
the ring.
The ring, the ring or the pendant is the ones that you typically buy. Okay. Yeah, like I said, if you need it to...
those don't drop at all? Like I have to get the coins?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the only way that that ring or a pendant can drop is you go to the lower difficulty. So like easy and normal can drop, but only the cracked and cracked and solid stuff. Yeah. So nothing of the higher rarity. Yeah.
How much more coins do you get from Hell versus Hard? Like a lot more? It's like double?
Hell is...
Because Hard is giving me nothing, so...
Yeah, Hell is like, I think 25 to 30? Somewhere around there.
Okay.
It's significantly more difficult, though. The second phase and the third phase are quite similar. They're comparatively not that hard, but the first phase has a lot of HP. Like, that chin takes a lot of damage to get through.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think Hard is like half of Hell, yeah. It definitely speeds up the process quite a bit. Wow, Zelpix with the 16-3 sub this month. Thank you, dude. For some reason, his Twitch Prime bugs out and he can keep resubbing. I don't know why it does that. Silent Crusade coins, you can use that to just buy the Mezzo bags. That's basically the only thing it has decent value for. You could wait until you have a whole lot, or you could just open it as you go. Yeah. The pennies, if you end up with a lot of Gollux pennies, you can use them to... oh no, these aren't Gollux pennies, these are Yggdrasil coins, right? The pennies you can use to buy that bag, the herb pouch from the shop. I think it's cost 50 and you can buy like one a week. But those are the same pouches that you can get... If the luckiest you could possibly get is you can get 30 juniper berry seed oils from that, if you can get that, which would give you enough oils to craft 9 WOPs or EOP potions.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, most of the time you're going to get lower rarity and you're going to get not as many, but you could also get one of the lowest rank from 30 of the high, so there's like a lot of disparity there. I think on average...
Yeah, so this makes sense then. Alright.
Yeah, on average you get about half a juniper berry seed oil from one bag. So if you open up like 30, you'll get probably on average like 15 oils basically.
Sure.
Okay, that's all the resources, that's all the backups you have. Cubes we'll get into once we look at the equips. Passive skills I have a resource for, but I assume you probably found that somewhere.
Yeah, I looked into it, so I'm pretty sure that's optimal.
Yeah.
At least for the boost. I don't think I need any boost, really, like, that's all.
Yeah, in general, crit chance is bad, right? Because it's for a specific attack. You want to have your critical rate just be 100% across the board.
Yeah.
So those you typically never take on any character. Why they even exist is a mystery.
I took them in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, if you have absolutely nothing, right? Because then critical rate is really good, but very
off.
quickly you build up hyper stat. You go for hyper skills and you go for your legion, and then boom, critical rate just falls out of the sky for most of the characters. Boost nodes, same thing probably, right? You know what you're doing.
Yeah. Do I need to get weapon aura? Would you say that I'd put that in my next thing there?
Yeah, weapon aura is nice. Weapon aura is definitely nice. So when it comes to leveling decent skills, if you have auto buff, you can not do that. That's because it has 100% uptime already at level 1, right? So that will give you a bunch of extra shards. Have you been crafting?
Yeah, because I am using it. I am using auto buff, so you want me to disenchant all those extra?
Yeah, I would disassemble the extra ones. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you crafted node
not
stones?
For holy symbol, right?
Yeah, except for holy symbol, exactly. Yeah.
Sure.
Have you leveled up? Have you crafted node stones before, or have you crafted straight up nodes?
I've crafted the ones that give me more boost levels.
Yeah, so when you like choose which skill you do you choose or do you not choose which ones you craft basically?
Yeah, like I'll choose like blast for example.
Okay.
And I'll level it up. That's what I've been doing.
So what you can, well, you're already pretty far with the boost nodes now, but like in the future, what you can also do with your shards is you can craft just boost nodes. Sorry, node stones. So like here, this option, if you can see on stream. And that way you just craft like the rocks themselves, but they're only 35 each. So the more boost nodes, the more total nodes that you're trying to level. So for a first character, boost nodes are very, very important, right, to get enough damage. So it makes sense that you put a little bit more emphasis on the boost nodes. Or if you're a character that gets
what I've been doing is good.
Yeah. If you get a lot of damage from like one specific skill node, for example, as a class, leveling that one up before everything else, especially if it's your first character, is more important. But as you go to like another character, you've got like 100 nodes or something that you want to throw on there. And basically what this comes back down to is this, right? Like the more you have everything else for this character already further down in the ranking of like how high you're overfunded, the more you can kind of stay lower on the level of the individual nodes, and you can go more on efficiency. Because if you just craft node stones, what will happen is you'll level up all of your nodes a little bit more evenly, which will be detrimental if you rely a lot on the boost node damage, but will be very useful for you if you're trying to eventually max everything out, because the skill nodes will level way faster this way, and the skill nodes cost double, right? The individual ones. So it's a lot harder to level.
And they're hard to get to.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get any of them.
So as long as you still have more nodes that you need to level, just opening a node stone gives you a lot of value. And because they only cost 35 shards, a boost node is 70, right? And a skill node is 140. So if instead of all the ones that you crafted, you think you can craft twice as many node stones as that, you probably will mostly get boost nodes that you can use anyway. So those are half price. The ones that you can't use, those only cost you 25 shards, which is still pretty cheap. Okay. And if you get a skill node, well, now you're gaining, what is it, 100 and... well, it's a quarter, right? So you're gaining like 105 shards on those, on each one of them. So every skill node you get offsets 4 boost nodes that you don't need. So the average value per shard goes up quite a bit like that, but you have to be able to afford it for your character, basically. So for second and third characters, that's some advice there that could definitely help you get to higher level skill nodes faster and be done faster with your matrix, essentially.
Makes sense,
yeah, you've got leveled up slots. You've got, I think, all the right skills in the right slots. Most of these make sense.
There's a Paladin. I'm on the Reboot Discord, and they said go for those ones there. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident that those are correct there.
Yep. Hyperbody.
Skill nodes, I'm not sure what to prioritize. I guess that's all.
Yeah.
Like I have rope lift there, but it doesn't seem that good because I have an upwards jump.
You have your up jump? Yeah, so you can try to replace it with weapon aura. Weapon aura gives you IED, gives you final damage, and it also has it goes up in uptime a lot when it levels. So that one gets a good value from leveling up. If the
you about that?
I don't think so.
I'll figure it out when I
don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in general, if something gives final damage, or if something goes up in uptime or down in cooldown, that's usually the ones you want to prioritize. That usually gives you the best value, because they typically also go up in damage, so like it's compounding just more value for leveling. And if you're very burst heavy as a class, then your burst skill specifically will give you more total damage, quite a lot more than others. But in general, 5th job skills, especially ones that you use for mobbing, they just like wreck from day one. So maxing them out is really just to min-max damage on bosses when you use them, rather than like really needing to when you're mobbing, essentially.
Yeah.
So they're lower on the priority list as like a general rule of thumb. When it comes to the left,
I think I only hold down blast. That's the whole thing. That's my whole gimmick. So you hold blast pretty much.
Well, when you're bossing, right?
Yeah, when I'm bossing.
Yeah, and then you throw your Mjolnirs when you have them, because they're like a decent ticky damage, and then you're pretty bursty.
Yeah.
And then whenever you have the little spitty hammers available, use those, I guess.
Yep.
Okay. With the extra ones you have, like Hyper Body, at least for the foreseeable future, doesn't seem to have any kind of value for you, so you can get rid of that completely if you want to. Blink will get value later on for survivability. You'll use like your up jump plus blink combo to stay in the air longer to avoid attacks, like for Lucid, the Dragon Breath, for example, is a very important part. Or you pop an iframe, or you tank a whole bunch of stuff, you know, depending on what you can do as a Paladin.
I think my class just face tanks everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure.
A lot of stuff.
Like, a lot of videos say this one-shots you, and then it doesn't one-shot me.
Yeah. Yeah, when people say one-shot, they mean it does 100% HP damage, is what they actually mean, which is probably how they should address it, because then you'd be like, oh, I have 10%, you know, percentage HP damage reduction, so that means it only does 90, so I can survive it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so Hyper Body off the table. Like Blink, I would keep as well, because if you level it up, it gains one weapon attack per level. So eventually you'll want to get that in there, because you know, if you have more slots, eventually that'll be a 30 attack skill, which is pretty nice. Blessing, if you plan to go very far, the will skill, the Urda's Will, eventually will be useful as well. So I would also level that one up and make sure you lock all the skills, right? So you have the boost nodes locked, but not the skill nodes, or not the upper ones. Just make sure you go there and lock them, just, you know, so no shenanigans happen there.
Yeah.
If you have decent Mystic Door, you can get rid of that.
Oh yeah, that sucks.
What else do you have down there?
I guess I didn't really show them all, but I have pretty much everything. I've got like the Maple Warrior one there as well.
Oh yeah, Goddess Blessing. Yeah, Goddess Blessing one level. That's a very important bursting skill for later. So that one is probably it's probably Weapon Aura and then Goddess Blessing that come into play for bossing. If you're mobbing,
my next unlock should be Weapon Aura. Like because next level I'll have another unlock because I'm burning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So put Weapon Aura.
Yeah, and again, you can also kind of have mobbing and bossing setups just in the same way that you do for all the other stuff, right? Like for hyperstats and everything.
Yeah.
Like your big Grand Cross is like really, really good for bossing, but for mobbing it's kind of garbage because you're just standing there hitting 3 monsters and then you're waiting for respawn. So that one can easily move around if you're doing a mobbing setup. You can get Weapon Aura in there because it does give a swipe and like extra range for your attack, right? When the aura shoots out, so that will kill some extra monsters. You could get Blink if you need extra attack. You could get decent Advanced Blessing in there for an extra like 20 weapon attack on level 1. That's pretty good. Yeah. But like your essentials is really like the top 3 lines. So once you're getting into like the 4th and the 5th line, you're just adding a little bit more, you know, power.
Yes.
Yep. Any other nodes? Any other skill nodes in there that you don't know what to do with?
I'd have to log in, but
you're not logging. Okay.
I get more of I'm not even logged in, but yeah, I'll take a look more into it, and obviously from there, but yeah.
But general direction is clear for that.
Yeah.
Cool.
V-Matrix was confusing, but it's pretty straightforward. Like, that was the biggest thing, but I get it like now.
Yeah, it's not the beginning. I always tell people.
What does this mean?
Yeah.
What is final damage, you know? But now it kind of makes sense. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to know all of those to build on them for sure.
Yeah.
Also tell people like there's a question mark in the bottom right. If you click that, there's a bunch of information there already. But of course, the nuances of like how far do you go, which skills do you use in your trinode, resources for that as well for the V matrix and everything, because it is just a lot of stuff to know. And there's a lot of with V matrix, there's more mistakes you can make early on that kind of haunt you because of the limited access to node stones. But that's why the clovers are so amazing, because of the access to the special nodes and to the node stones it gives you, right? So you can really get some good levels on those skill nodes with those EXP node stones. Did you buy those out, the green ones?
Yeah, I got the green ones, and I use them on the active skills I use. So the trinodes. I'm not sure if that was a mistake, but
yeah, they get more. They get basically double the value if you use them on skill nodes, because they give you the same EXP as 3 nodes, but skill nodes need half the nodes to level up.
Yeah,
but that's because
they're more rare. And,
yeah. So you basically get double the value. Yeah, you get double the value on the skill nodes versus boost.
Sure.
Yeah. But that explains why there are 24 now. That makes way more sense why they're so far ahead of the other ones. Okay. Link skills we talked about. Any remaining questions there? But you can use the... What was it?
Yeah, I'll look at the resource and... Yeah, like I'm leveling up characters. Like that's what I'm pretty much doing when I'm on my main.
Yeah, 140 is a good sweet spot. You get the whole legion full of 140s, you get 6k.
Eventually I'll get them to 210, the ones I need to get there.
Yeah.
I think right now where my account's at, I think 140 is fine.
Yeah, you'll have level up potions, you'll have EXP events going that at that point for your main are just not that good anymore, and then it just trickles down like, okay, what's the next character that can take advantage of that, and then...
Yeah, like I'm working on the Night Lord to 140, and then I'll leave it. And then I'll probably do the other thieves from there, and then Beast Tamer, obviously, when that comes on. Yeah,
Beast Tamer is 0, high priority. Okay. Yeah, and for the grid itself, so you're going to get into the point, especially once you get to 3k. So for now, I think it's okay. But once you get to 3k, I would like redo the whole thing, kind of like with your hyper stats, because you'll get 2 grids on the outside. And then you want to specifically be like, okay, max out the crit rate, max out the normal monster damage maybe, right? And then connect.
But you don't want to be putting them in attack or strength. Like you want to go straight to the outside as fast as possible.
Exactly, yeah. And then once you get into like 8k and everything on the outside is maxed, then you move back into the middle and then you min-max again on the attack and the strength in a similar way that for your hyper stats, right? Once everything is like 10, 11 and every level up takes forever, well then you start going like level 4, level 5 like into the attack and the strength again, so you at least put the points to work for you so you can get a little bit more out of them basically. So you treat them in a very similar way to that. All right, we get to the equips. I've totally lost track of the time. We're probably like
I know it's
2
been
hours
going on
in
a
at this
while.
point. Well, I'm saying it more for my.
Thank you.
I'm saying it more for my time my timestamps. If you made it this far into the game into the video, you're a trooper. But the the timestamps are probably not existent. So good luck on YouTube viewers later on, because I've restarted the playlist over and over, so I have no idea of the time concept.
You can PM me in game and flame me. It's all good.
Yeah, flame you in game. We'll teach you a little bit more about flaming. So, all the stuff we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we didn't start with the equips. What idea does that give you about equips, about progression? Like, what is the most important thing to look at now? What do you see as like the top priorities?
The big 3, right? The first one. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Weapon, emblem, and not the pocket, but the secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they roll attack, and that's the biggest. Like that's huge.
It's mainly it is the hugest line, but it's also because there's almost no other place where you can roll attack, right? So the opportunity cost is insanely high there.
So I got my emblem there, and figured I'd leave it there for a bit. I got Dex, which whatever. But the attack, the 2-line attack, good enough. And then I'm not moving.
How do you know?
Epic
just as like the teacher asking the student, like how do you know that it's not worth rolling over that?
The chances of getting more is it's like the amount of money I have to put in when I can allocate it somewhere else. Like it's good enough.
But how can you check how much that costs?
When I wrote down the exclamation marks here. Shit, I don't remember. There's so many like exclamation marks, but there was a calculator that you showed me.
Yeah, so they're cubing. Yeah, exclamation mark cubing. Yeah. So there you could check the expected cost to roll anything beyond that, and you will see. Yeah, if you try to go for 3-line, it's like an expected cost of 40 bill, I think, or 30 bill on event cubes. So.
Yeah, and I got that in like I think it was like 10 or so cubes. So I was like.
Oh, that's pretty lucky. I think on average it's about 2. It's about 2 bill plus 2 to 4, I think. So yeah, cut your losses, really move on. Yeah.
Yeah,
and you're gonna get some luck, you know, so that you move on, because there's gonna be some other things that are not lucky. So that's gonna need that extra money for sure.
I'm not touching the secondary because I want the Princess No one.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And how far? How far would you want to push that second one?
2-line attack is good enough, I think.
Mm-hmm. So any alternatives that would also be good enough?
Attack, strength.
Mm-hmm. But there's other things you can roll on secondaries, right? Other lines.
Like IED and boss damage.
Yeah, exactly. So like a combination of that could be good enough. The main thing you want to look at is, do you have trouble killing monsters near your level? If you don't, keep whatever value you can get, because it'll give you a lot of damage when you're bossing. Right now. Yeah.
Like I'm training on things just slightly under my level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm one-shotting them, so yeah.
Well, you got your boost nodes that are doing a lot of heavy lifting now, right? So
yeah,
as long as as you start leveling, as you go to the highest levels, it'll be a little bit more tricky because your arcane power will have trouble keeping up. So it's going to be a lot of pressure on your V matrix, and then once your arcane power keeps up, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when I'm doing the next quest, like, because since I'm getting 3 levels, like every level essentially, I'm doing the quest and I don't have the arcane power, and it's annoying me. So I'm just doing my dailies, and like the event's going on for like another month and a bit, so I'll hit 250. It's no biggie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So secondary, and then it's either like really good unique lines or straight up to legendary, right? Like let's say you roll like 966 in unique or something. At that point, you have an equivalent 21, right? So there's no point in spending the money to upgrade because you already have what you were looking for. So that way you can also, cut your losses or cut your gains, and move on. And then for the weapon is probably going to stay with you for a bit, right?
This one that I have right now.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean, the big value is that you have the set bonus, right? Once you get the other pieces, so you want to activate that set bonus as soon as possible because that's a bunch of extra damage that you're.
That'd be the last one I'd get.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be the last one that you buy. Unless, it's like your second or third or fourth character, you're going to be like exchanging carries and you're going to be like blowing through the whole thing, then the weapon is one of the first ones you can get because you'll have like 50 bill like waiting to just throw on things, right? And then it's a high priority for damage. But if this one is good enough, right, and it can help you kill all the things that you can already kill, then this is good enough because it'll mean that your weapon is like one of the most expensive things to work on, right? You want all the Star Force, you want a really good potential, you need the legendary, you want a really good flame on it. It's one of the most expensive pieces, if not the most expensive piece that you're going to be upgrading. So if you have a temporary one that's good enough, that gives you a lot of money free to bring everything else up a little bit, way more efficiently, right? And then when you're strong enough for everything and then you have a weapon, then you can hard capitalize on that. Some people even use this one all the way until they get an arcane weapon, because if everything else is strong enough, especially, Legion's working for you, Link skill's working for you, you've got like a few hundred nodes from your previous main, I'll just use like this event weapon, and then I'll just wait for an arcane drop, and boom, then spend everything on arcane, right? That's when you know the path, but you also see where you can start like cutting corners and skipping upgrades. And the more you can skip upgrades, the more it'll the more efficient it'll be. But of course, if it's your first character, the less efficient it's going to be because you need that damage to get to the next step. And if you skip a step, there's nothing to skip to. You just, there's no stone there to skip onto. You just fall into the fucking river. So this one, since you're going to be holding it for quite a while, I would advise if you have any flames to use it on this one, because weapon flames, and if you go back to the progression grid, you see for weapon flames, the main thing that you want is the tier of weapon attack or magic attack. That's really important.
I don't have that. I have the boss damage.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have 14 boss damage. Yeah, if you look at the flame stuff, 14 boss damage, you'll know boss damage is always 2 per level, so that's a tier 7. That's the highest you can possibly get. So that would be really good if it was on top of some weapon attack, So you're aiming... Yeah, exactly. So you're typically aiming for like a tier 6 weapon attack. The reason I work with the tiers instead of like with the flame score is because the tier is a percentage of the base attack of the weapon. And since there are so many types of different weapons, the numbers are all over the place. So the tiers is just easier.
So I should start flaming that thing when I have that.
Yeah, so you can use this...
Is there a flame I should use? Like, is the red one just shit? Don't use that?
Well, we were talking about high priority, right? So you would use all the
Yeah.
flames that you have, and you would prioritize this one. And if you have Eternals, then this is the perfect thing to use it on. But Powerfuls are almost as good. They're only just like a little bit worse.
Okay.
So this is a level 160 item with a base attack of 205. So you can already see in the calculator as well on what the possible outcome is going to be, what numbers you're chasing. So if you see a 63, that's a tier 5. Yeah, so because you're going to be looking for tier 5 plus with like a lot of extra stuff, or tier 6.
Oh, okay,
So,
yeah, it's making a lot more sense now when I see it.
yeah.
Okay.
So if you hit a tier 5, 63 attack with like a tier 7 boss damage like you have now with like 14 boss, you could be like, okay, that's pretty fucking good, right? That 14 boss is going to do a lot of lifting as well. If you hit a tier 6, but it has nothing else at all, again, you can look at the flame calculator, right? Like, weapon, boom, this is cubing, exclamation mark, flames. And this is how the calculators, it's like, oh my god, you have to calculate everything? No, but if you're like confused or you're like wondering, you could throw it in a calculator and see like, well, you know, what ballpark, like where are we talking? Yeah, use red flames, tier 6, tier 6 plus, so it also includes if you could roll something better, but with the powerful you can, with no damage. This is like 218 to 300 mil. That's not that bad, because that's 82 attack, and to go back to this, right, 82, see? And this is why weapon is so important, because that flame score is impossible to get on any other piece if remotely close. Plus you're getting damage on top of that, which you can't even possibly calculate. But what if you had that in like 60 strength or something? You know, this is like the flame of like 6 of your items combined right now, right? For this kind of value is just, or was it this one? Yeah, for this kind of value, it's like comparable. And you see also, so tier 7 you can't click. Tier 7 is only on Eternals. But if you had Eternals for this, you know, it's not that different. It's pretty close. But if you start adding like 10% damage or something, well, now the expected cost just like went up, you know, 900%. So that way you could also tell, like, if you get a certain flame, like, is this a really, really fucking godly flame, or is this just like a decent flame? You know? And you'll see an item being smegad, and then you'll see an item, and then you'll start seeing like, oh wow, this is actually really impressive, or why the hell are they showing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's for WSE, right? That's the most important stuff. And then after that, what was the second most important stuff?
The second most important stuff to upgrade?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would assume it'd be my my CRA gear. So I'm keeping it for longer.
Yeah, the main important thing there is if you need that damage to be able to kill monsters near your level, right? What happens again once you have enough damage to kill the monsters and to train? What other stats become important?
Meso gear and drop gear.
Mm-hmm. And outside of gear, what is the other thing that becomes important once you can kill the monsters?
And... Oh, I don't remember.
Crit damage is the one to get enough damage, right? The other one that becomes more important is the EXP stat, right? Getting more EXP from the monsters that you can kill, because once you kill all you can kill, there's no more gaining EXP, so now you have to gain EXP per kill that you're getting. So yeah, basically what we're doing here is we're trying to get more resources per monster we're killing, because we can't kill more monsters, we can already kill them, right? So going more damage, that looks cool, bigger numbers, but it doesn't help you right now. It'll only help you later. So why invest now into something you don't need now? What you need now is more money so that you can get that jump later faster, right? So we want to work on the drop and the meso gear. So it all comes down to accessories, building a right set of 9 accessories, and getting those together and getting them to legendary, hitting drop or meso. As soon as you hit that, move on to the next one. Because as soon as you have one of those pieces, your income goes up. And the next piece is going to be just a little bit faster, and just a little bit faster. Doesn't really matter which pieces they are, because they're probably you're going to have those 2 separate sets, right? If you do roll a whole bunch of strength on it, keep it and move on the next piece, and then you'll be like unlucky in trying to get lucky, or get lucky trying to get unlucky, whatever. And that's going to happen. But yeah, then you just have to make another piece, and that'll slow you down a little bit, but it's not the end of the world.
Yep, makes sense.
And that goes down to exclamation mark. Cubing has this one as well. So this talks a little bit about the general priority of cubing. This is gonna have to change because the cube names are changing. I don't know if you saw all of that. We're gonna get like different names, cubes, and everything.
Yeah.
So this is basically what we're talking about, right?
People seem to think that's a bad thing. I don't know anything about
people
it,
are
though.
scared that they might fuck with the rates of it, but we don't know that yet, so we're gonna have to just wait and see. Yeah, so weapon, sub-weapon, emblem. This is if you're purely looking for stats, though. So like badge and heart have the lowest amount of junk lines, and if you throw that into the simulator for the cubes, you'll see that as well. That it just has a lower expected cost. So if you're just trying to squeeze out as much damage with as little money as possible on cubing, then there'll be like a slight priority there. Like critical damage on gloves is really, really good. It'll make your range go down, but it'll make your damage go up because critical damage is much more limited in access, right? So that's where knowing where your damage comes from is important. And then your accessories also have lower amount of junk lines. That's why it's relatively possible to hit a lot of stat while you're searching for drop in Mezzo. And then basically everything else. And then CRA, potential-wise, is actually last. So that you have a 30% strength pants, which I recently rolled that on my Arc, who has 22-star almost everything. I recently finally also rolled a 30 strength, yeah.
Well, I just had so many, and then I thought, oh my god, I gotta use them on something, so I was like, fuck it, the pants, let's do it, and then I got that. So,
efficiency-wise, it's one of the worst possible decisions, but you got the right outcome, so fuck it, we take those.
It's done, yeah. It's done, but now focus on that priority list. Like, what's done is done, it's good, but work on the other ones.
Yeah, so like bottom 30% stat is like, was it 7 to 10? Is this right? Wait, red cubes, legendary 150.
Yeah, I didn't use that. I think I used maybe like 20, 25 red cubes for that.
Wow, I used way more than this. But yeah, so so you see something between like 600 and 900 cubes on average. Where if this was a ring, for example, so like an accessory, the average cost is quite a bit lower. You see that?
Yeah. Okay.
So again, this is like the same thing as with the flames. It's just kind of knowing pound for pound where you're gonna get the most value out of it. It's not saying that it's fucking wrong. It's just saying that if you go by efficiency more, on average you'll just get better results and better bang for your buck.
I did get really lucky on the pants, but I mean,
yeah. Again, but just like with the other item, like with the emblem, you'll get lucky on some, but So mentally prepare yourself that some other items are just gonna suck. Like there's just not gonna go. As long as you're okay, as long as you're aware of that.
It is what it is. It's RNG. That's the game, right?
Okay, so you've got a decent amount of accessories.
And then you'd get bored, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. There's got to be some pacing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, you got a dom. That's nice. And I guess like pendants. What are you using for pendants right now?
The Mechanator and the Dominator.
Oh, Mechadom. Oh, yeah. Mechadom, yeah.
Should it be a Chaos Horntail pendant instead?
No, because Chaos Horntail pendant by itself is going to be pretty shit because it doesn't have flame advantage. It's going to give you the set bonus, but the further you go, the more insignificant that's going to be. You don't want to use it as a crutch, basically.
Okay.
You could go for a greed pendant if you're doing Monster Park.
I have it, yeah.
Because that has built-in drop rate for equips, so since it's
I throw it on before I kill a boss. That's all I do with it.
Yeah, you couldn't give it potential in the same way and make it part of your boss, your drop in Meso Gear, preferably the drop rate part, right? So you can also use it for bosses later. That one has a slight priority for drop rate over Meso, but for the other ones, it's just one of the lines, move on to the next one. And what'll happen is you'll get like 6 with Meso and 3 with drop, and then you just pick whichever piece you have that has too many lines, right? Too many Meso or too many drop. Then you just re-roll any one of them that you have too many of that doesn't also have stat, right? As a second or third line. So that hopefully by the time you get to like 5 Meso and 4 drop, at least like 5 or 6 of them have at least some stat on there as well. Because even if it's just 6%, it'll be like an extra 30% strength, right? So that'll just take a little bit of pressure off of your other pieces. It's not a priority, but it's a nice little added bonus.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, since they're boss accessory pieces, eventually once your flames kind of run out of value on the Abzo, on the CRA, well, first on your weapon, but then like the Abzo and the CRA stuff, and maybe the, Tourniquet probably not, because of Abzo. Then you can also start working on like your bossing accessory pieces that are part of your drop rate gear, just to bring all their flames up just a little bit. Because again, they have flame advantage, so they could very easily roll something like 45 to 50. And if you get 45 to 50 stat on like what is it, like 6 different pieces, that's 300 stat, you know. And with your percentages,
that's better than just getting all stat.
Well, again, flame score, right? When I'm saying 50, I'm
Right,
saying
yeah.
flame score always. It could be 50 strength, or it could just be like 6% all stat and nothing else. Both of those are roughly 50. So I'm always going to use those like interchangeably. So since we talked about flame score a little bit. So when it comes to your CRA, like what is your best flame? What is your worst flame? Can you tell by looking at it now, like a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. Like I would say, like attack power and all stat would be my best flame, right, on the pants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was easy, right? Because it's the highest number in all 3, so it has to be the best one, right?
Oh, okay. But for my helmet, like defense sucks. Just like jump is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming, right? And
yeah, those don't do anything for damage. Yeah.
Yeah, and the armor, like I have int and luck on it, which sucks. Defense sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But I got all stats, so I was like, okay, it's good enough. Like that must be really good, but.
Yeah, so you got one more all stat and 4 attack, and the other one has 20 strength and 20 dex. That's really hard to compare, right? Like, how the fuck does that even work?
Yeah.
So you can do, boom, we go 20, 20, 0, what was it, 5? 4.
Yes. Oh, the
4?
top, I think, was 5. And the hat was 4.
So we do save here, we could do hat. And then the other one is 4 attack, 5 all, and that's it. So we do 4 attack, 5 all, and do. It was a little bit trick question because they were really close, right? But now you can see that they are basically the same. The hat is actually slightly better, but it's really close.
I see.
So now, if you're going to be flaming,
sense,
but then the pants, right, was 40.
8 and 5, I think.
8 and 5.
40, 8 and 5%. Yeah, 8 weapon attack, 5%.
Oh yeah, so you want to look only at the green number for this. It's really important because that's the bonus stats just from the flames. So you want to make sure you're using only the green numbers there. So the blue numbers are the when you're transposing, the blue numbers are going to do some weird funky shit, but look at that video and that'll be explained.
Yeah.
But that's basically the Star Force stats. The green is the flame, and then the white is the base stats. So if you look at the flame, it would be 40, 20, 6, and 5. 6 and 5. Which is a flame score of 105, right? So if you compare that, yeah, you see like the flame score is almost as good as the other two combined. And if you look at the progression, pretty much, you look at the progression grid, you look at it like 105, you're like a lower end. That's like good enough until like level 270, basically, until you need to work on that at all, flame-wise, right? And the potential is also like beyond that. So this one is just like hardcore, just only send on Star Force, brain dead, right?
So I Star Force the shit out of this thing, huh? You don't even... Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when it comes to Star Forcing, it's basically just always like, where do you have the... It's always like, where do you get the best value for your money, right? And when it comes to Star Forcing, when it comes to booming, you just always have to... If it goes up to 17, either you safeguard or you don't safeguard. You safeguard if you don't want it to blow up, and you don't safeguard if you're okay with it blowing up. When are you okay with it blowing up? Either you're... you have something wrong in your head, or you have backups, right? That's typically the some people, category number 1. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that'll, again, once you get further into the game, it'll just the things that you need to be working on will just show itself. It's like, oh, I have 6 kind of treasure rings, and enough for like 1 backup on superior and nothing else to work on. And like the CRA is already like 19 stars, and going beyond that is going to be like tens of billions. Like, okay, I'm working on kind of treasure rings.
This makes a lot more sense when I see my gear into the calculator than it's being arbitrary. Because I'm kind of like excited to kind of go from here and take my gear and put it into the calculator myself and move from there. Like that's super helpful.
Yeah, and after a while,
so arbitrary to me. It's like okay, I rolled it, and then I'm just like, okay, what does this mean? Can it get more? I don't know.
Yeah, can you? Yeah, and how expensive is it?
I don't know what this means. Yeah, I have no idea. So those calculators are super helpful to know.
Yeah, and that's why I put these values in here as well, because just knowing how good it is one thing, but like knowing is how far is reasonable to push is another, right?
Yes.
Flames is definitely something you kind of just do on the side. It's mainly going to be like very early on. Oh, get Star Force, right? Then you work on like epic potential, maybe because you have some cubes. That's whatever. Then you mainly work on potential for like WSE, and you get into accessories. Then it's all Star Force basically until everything is 17, maybe even until CRA is 19. Then you go back to the potentials, but only to the things that you don't transfer hammer over. So basically all this stuff except for if you're going to transfer Abzo, or if you're going to transfer Superior, right? Those stay a little bit lower, like good unique lines is good enough. Maybe 2-line legendary, depending on how long it takes you to get to that point. And then it's all Star Forcing again, basically until everything is 21. And then once everything is 21, you finish up all the potentials, and then you go for 22. But typically by that point, you can already do all the content in the game, and then you tend to just work on other characters.
Yeah. Okay.
That's like the and then flaming is always just like, do you have a flame? Cool. Look where it has the most value and use it. Is it most likely going to fuck up your your equip? Then throw it on another character.
Yeah.
That's basically what flames are. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So are there any equips? I think we did like a 3.5 hour session now. Is there any?
Yeah, it's up to 3 hours. I don't want to keep you much longer, honestly. I'll review the.
It was fun for me, and I didn't have that many sessions to do recently, so I was like, fuck
yeah,
it.
I understand, but I know you've got things to do in your stream, obviously, and we've gone way over the time. Yeah, no, like it's been great. I don't want to keep you too much longer, obviously.
Yep. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, honestly, like it's just, maybe I'll touch base again in another month, and see where I'm at. Right? It doesn't just need to end here, obviously. But yeah, thank you. I'll just keep using those commands like the calcs and do a bit more research, but the explanation helps a lot because I just kind of got dunked into the deep end, right, with the game, like being hyperburned so quickly and all this information being thrown at me as a brand new player, right? It's a lot, so any explanation helps.
It's a huge setup to just get you to feel like you have to do so much that you can get kind of lost in that control, right? So definitely try to maintain control of what you do and how much you do. What's important to me is
I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah.
Even though it is overwhelming, it's fun learning things. The gameplay's fun.
Yeah.
I think it'll get a lot better once I join a guild. I gotta find a guild, and that's one of my biggest things, I think, is I gotta get the guild going and then start playing with people, because I am playing a support character, so I gotta get
support, access to maps, guild skills, and people will just tell you things that will just help you out. That's why I'm streaming all the time, because it's just, I'll say 10 things and people will know 9 things, but then the 10th thing is like, oh wait, I actually didn't know that. You just pick things up just by being in proximity to people, so that's always
I should watch more streams. I'm not much of a stream guy, but
I'm not saying you have to. I wasn't saying that,
but I mean, it's just every little. No, I know what you're saying, but I'm also like adding on that as well, right? Like, you just kind of learn by watching and doing, and I'll give you an ad there. I see Draxer in chat.
Yeah. Anyone in the
game, and I'll just give you guys an ad. I'm open to play with whoever, and I'm new, so I'm welcome anyone.
Yeah. Well, welcome to you. We went over a lot, and there's still so much more to go over, but the commands will definitely help out a lot. And if you need any clarification, just reach out in the chat. And there's a bunch of people in the chat have been there so long, they pretty much know exactly what I was going to say anyway, so they'll probably give you the same answer I could even give you before I can even read your question. So you can also use the commands when I'm offline, so you won't have to wait until I get here.
But again, thank you. Obviously, we went some time over, but I appreciate it like a lot, and thank you.
You're very welcome, and I wish you the best of luck on Shining Star Force. Hopefully you don't have to see too many traces. That'll
yeah. Well, anyways, I'll let you get back to your stream, and have a good stream. Thank you.
Sure thing. All right, have a good one. Bye.
Goodbye. Yep.
All right, so hopefully you guys did like 2 totems at this point. But I just saw you can use all of these resources, all of those commands. You can find them in my chat. If you liked this session, you can request these sessions as well through the coaching command, !coaching, or you can see the info in the description of the video. These are paid sessions, or you can get them, sometimes you can get double the length if I'm feeling generous. Sometimes double the length, baby. I also give 2 sessions away for free every month to people who comment on these videos that they would like to win one of these sessions. So make sure that if you're interested, you leave a comment. I'll be drawing the winners from November soon. I actually haven't done that yet. It's already the 10th of the month. I'll get on that and plan those sessions. I have 2 more coming up soon, so you're not starved for content, and then the 2 pre-sessions, so up to 4. yeah, other than that, I hope you picked up some stuff from this. If you're a new person coming back to the game, hopefully there was a lot in there for you, a lot of foundational stuff, and also a lot of access to commands and stuff that'll explain things even more deeply. Don't get too overwhelmed by things like this with like so many fucking numbers, right? Just look at the column that you're in, and then just look at the stat that you're interested about, and then just look at the number. And if that doesn't make sense, look at the command, and then just slowly work your way up to the understanding. That's enough. You can always ask for confirmation if you like, do I understand this correctly? I'm accessible through pretty much everywhere: YouTube comments, Twitch, through Discord. Join the Discord if you're interested. We've got a lot of people there just always talking about things and just helping each other out. So hopefully that'll give you guys a good foundation on where to start. We've got a guild as well, so we've got access to pretty much everything. So yeah, thanks for watching, and either I'll see you on the next video or when I'm streaming live over at twitch.tv/Scardor. Thanks for watching.